Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, and hopefully tomorrow night as well, if you're joining us for our third event this week. Fantastic to see so many heads joining us here this evening. I can see a huge amount coming through, and loads of familiar faces from previous events, but also a few new heads too join us. So whether you're a seasoned veteran of these events or brand new to it, you're very, very welcome, and you're in for a fun evening, hopefully anyway. Just to say off the bat, massive thank you to everyone who picked up a beer box, picked up a ticket to join us this evening. Ultimately, though, for your support of independent Irish breweries, not just tonight, not just this week, but like all your life, hopefully, 18 plus. Like the support has been absolutely incredible, and the impact of your support can't be overstated. So thank you so much. Indie Beer Week itself, the reason for it, it's obviously it's a fantastic occasion to promote all the independent Irish breweries around the country, celebrate the beers, and open up. The breweries usually open their doors to different events and different occasions going on. While we're a little bit different this year, obviously, we're still going to have a bit of fun. So we'll have fun. Be good. In general, I suppose the independent Irish beer scene, it's just massively about collaboration and about community. It's an absolute pleasure, honor, privilege to be hosting this evening, but it's a huge group effort. ICBI, all the independent breweries, Beer Cloud, Liam getting the beers out to everyone, and we've our fantastic co-host here as well, John the Beer Nut, obviously chair of your the Beer Nut himself, an absolute pillar of the Irish beer community, stalwart, and I think pretty much the guy who could actually write the book on Irish beer, and you probably should, John. Tonight's event, okay, quick overview. So we're going to be sampling 10 fantastic beers from breweries all around the country. We're going to spend about 20 minutes per beer, chatting to each brewery along the way. Event pace is purely to keep things on schedule, keep things ticking over, and make sure we're not here till 4 o'clock in the morning, although I know some of you will be from previous events. Whatever you choose to do, just please drink your beers responsibly. You'll see that we've kind of broadly and somewhat tenuously categorized the beers into pairs. There's two reasons for this. One is to have a bit of discussion around the beer styles, and actually you can, if you want, you can taste kind of nuances and taste different flavors between them. Another one as well is if you're on your flying solo tonight or whatever, you can open one of the beers, keep one for another occasion, and so you're not trying to get through all 10 beers in 20 minutes a pop. I think everyone's familiar with Zoom at this stage, but if not, a few tips to get you up and running. You can change your view. You can have your floating heads view when you see all of us on one window, or you can have your active speaker view, whatever you'd like to do. Chat box is probably the most important thing here this evening. This is a highly interactive event. Please get involved in the chat box, get posting questions, comments, chatting with one another. It always makes for good fun. Usually takes about an hour into the event till the chat box really starts to take off and get interesting, but sure, we'll see if we can get it going from beer number 1 here this evening. We'll lay down the challenge. And then at the end, we're going to wrap up kind of about 20 past 11 formally. We'll keep the chat open for anyone who wants to stay on, finish their beers, have a chat for a while afterwards. So that's the plan for this evening. Okay, time to go. If I haven't put everyone to sleep already, I think it's time to get kicked off. First off, we are going over to St. Mel's Brewery. We're going to chat to Liam. We're going to open up our back lagers, and if you haven't done so, grab it from the fridge, open it up, pour it, and start getting acquainted with it. So, hello, Liam.
How you doing? How's everybody? I'm Liam. I'm co-founder of St. Mel's Brewing Company, based in Longford. We've been operating for about 7 years. I founded it 2014 along with Owen Tynan, who's here listening in to make sure I don't do anything stupid.
Keep to the script now.
I'd like to start by saying a big thank you to you, Brian, and to Liam and Dead Centre and Beer Cloud for facilitating the event on behalf of the ICBI. You've done huge work in the background, so thanks for having us all on.
No worries at all. Thank you, Liam. Thanks for joining us. Okay. So I suppose introduction to St. Mel's. Tell us a bit about it. What's your role there? And how did it start?
Yeah, well, I do the brewing. And lots of other things. We were founded in 2014, as I said. I've been in the brewing industry for a long time. I started out in 2003, I think it was, in Dublin Brewing Company. Then I went and did a master's in Scotland in area of Watt in brewing and distilling science. And then I worked for another brewery in Ireland for 7 years called O'Hara's. and then I left that and started St. Mel's with Owen. I left O'Hara's in 2012, I think, or 11. We got St. Mel's up and running in 2014. So it was always an ambition to have my own brewery in Longford. That's what we're doing now. So we brew loads of different beers. I think we do 5 different lagers, 4 or 5 different ales, couple of stouts in there as well. And this year we got a producer's retail license, or last year we got a producer's retail license, which allows us to sell directly to the public. So people can drop into the brewery now, call in, collect some beer, bring it home with them, which has changed our business a lot.
Okay, amazing. So I'm going to ask everyone to pop in the comments who's poured their Bock Lager and how are they finding it? What are they enjoying it? What are they getting from it? While we're doing that, Liam, tell us about the beer. What is it? What's a Bock Lager to start?
Yeah, Bock is a German style beer. John probably knows more about the history of Bock than I do. But
no, you keep going.
Bocks are quite a malty lager, so they're brewed with a lager yeast, which means they're fermented at a low temperature. But they've got a lot of body in them. And traditionally, the way Bocks were brewed was through decoction brewing, because German malt was quite poor actually, so it was a little bit under modified. So to get the best out of the malt, they used a method called decoction, which, without getting too technical, means heating up bits, taking away bits and heating it up higher and putting that back into the first bit. It's all very complicated and difficult. So we don't do that. we use some modern malts and we use high temperature mashing techniques to brew the body into the beer. So what Bock is full of is a type of sugar called a dextrin, which is quite a complicated sugar, but that's what gives it all that body. And dextrins can't be fermented by your typical Saccharomyces yeast. So what we're doing is we're manipulating our mash profile to try and make sure we get as many dextrins from it as possible. And that's what gives it that body at the end, which isn't when people see lager on the can, that's not what they're expecting.
I'm interested to see that you've included a bit of wheat, which wouldn't be typical for a German lager.
No, but I just find that wheat is very good for head retention, so that's why we put it in there. It doesn't really impact the flavour at all. So,
and then there's you talk about it being malt forward, and rich malty is on the front of the can. There's a definite hop kick. There's kind of a grassy rocket vegetable.
Yeah, we would have more hops in there than a traditional Bock would have, I would suspect. Now it's not a very high IBU. I think it's like 22 or 23, but a typical Bock would be down around 12, 15 IBUs, which are international bitterness units for the uninitiated, and that's how we measure the bitterness in beer. So we use typical German hops. So I think we use Pearl and Magnum to add the bitterness, and a little bit of grassiness at the end as well. I think that comes from the aroma hop more than the Magnum. Couldn't be sure. But yeah, it is a little bit hoppier than the Bock you would buy in the streets in Germany.
Yeah,
I think the Irish drinker is able for.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that balance is kind of one of those things that's talked up in beer, and this isn't particularly balanced as such, because there's a big hoppiness and there's a big maltiness, and they're both there, and they're both kind of sort of.
I kind of think they balance each other, though. I think having the two of them it kind of creates a bit of a harmony. Maybe balance isn't the right word. Maybe harmony is. We're a little bit lower in alcohol than a typical Bock as well. It's more of a my Bock style. So a typical Bock would be up around 6.5%, 7%. But what happens then is it kind of adds a slickness to the beer that we don't necessarily want in ours. We want it to be a bit of a lighter touch in terms of the heat from the alcohol.
Do you find, I know a few brewers that I've slagged off for not making lagers, to put not too fine a point on it, have said that they take too much time in the tanks. Do you find
this take a lot of time in the tanks? Yeah.
Does this occupy space?
Well, we set ourselves up from the beginning to be able to brew both lagers and ales. So we always knew that we would need extra tank space, and we do have probably for the output we probably have more tanks than most breweries have, and it's to facilitate the extra lager in time. Yeah. So all our lagers get 4 weeks in the tank. At a minimum, the Bock actually gets 6 weeks in the tank. But it's do it the right way or don't do it, really. So
there you go. Yeah. This was one of the first seasonals or specials that you did in its original form, wasn't it?
Yeah. So when we first started, we did a seasonal series. We had a raisin and oatmeal stout, and we had the Springbok, and we had a beer garden wit, and we had an autumn IPA. And the Springbok won an award at one of the Killarney Brewing Festivals. Owen would be able to tell me the year. I think it was 2015, Owen? 2016?
16.
16.
Yeah.
But 2016, we won an award, a gold medal. But it was always the biggest selling of the 4 seasonals we did. But the seasonals, having a seasonal series like that, or a rigid seasonal series, has challenges in terms of getting them sold through before the season is over. So we kind of cut back on the seasonal series a little bit, and then we decided to cut back on all of it except Springbok, which is what the Asher Luckett used to be called. And then when we were launching a canned range, we just thought of the beers we had on, and we thought it suited cans the best, so that's why we put it into cans and changed the name.
Yeah. I think it's one of the charming things about the Irish beer market is that you can still buy your pumpkin beer for Christmas and your Christmas beer for St. Patrick's Day.
Well, yeah, it is, but we decided not to go down that route anymore. So.
So jumping to some of the comments here, Liam. I don't know if you can see it coming in at the moment. I'd say
no, I'm on my phone because my camera won't work. So that's why you're all looking up my nose.
Lovely comments coming in here. Yeah, nice and malty. Haven't had it before, but liked it more the second time. Paul and Kate say love the Bach. We're having it with pizza and pairs very well. Will, great, like a nice biscuit. Great body. Steve, delicious with cured meat. Yeah, so lovely comments coming in for it there. So, lads, 7 years in business. You recently celebrated your 7th birthday last weekend, which some people are probably still recovering from.
Still trying to get over it myself.
Yeah, brilliant event, absolutely brilliant. So how have the last 7 years been? How's it been running the business with Owen, putting up with them?
It's been a joy, absolute joy. Owen's one of the finest gentlemen I ever meet.
I'm glad you said that.
Yes. We'll have another talk about it on text message later, Brian. No, I mean, the 7 years in a small business is a roller coaster for anybody, and I don't think we're any different. There's loads of challenges along the way. I remember Owen sending me a text after about 2 years saying we had 500 quid left in our bank account, and I just texted him back, squeaky bum time.
When did we ever have 500 quid in our bank account? When were these halcyon days of wealth?
But it is a roll. Anybody in small business tell you the same thing. It's a roller coaster. I think once you get past 5 years, if you still have a solvent business after 5 years, you're probably doing something right. So hopefully we are.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Owen is putting pitching beers in the chat there, so he's always on.
You were one of the first breweries to take up the new licensing model. Has that worked out well for you? Yeah,
it's changed our business a lot, John. Blown away by the support we get locally. So we got the producer's retail license last June or July, and we've been building up the local sales ever since. But you wouldn't believe, like, it's really made us part of a community, which we were always trying to be, but this has really embedded us. So yeah, no, it's made a huge difference for our business, and changed how we think a lot as well. So we're much more. It's a retail business within a brewing business now, and we've had to learn a lot on the hoof about retail. Still learning a lot on the hoof about retail, but it's been a positive thing for us. Yeah, well, certainly during COVID, things would have been very difficult without it. So
I'd chime in there as well, Liam, and just say, like, for myself, Liam is the lead brewer, if you like. I do bits and pieces and help out, but mainly admin and sales and moving beer and all that sort of stuff. But, when you're dealing with shops and you're dealing with other retailers and people who are trying to make a profit off it, it's a different relationship than selling directly to people that are interested in what you're doing and want to, you know, they like consuming what you're doing and you like talking about it, and it's completely different dynamic. Not that retailers or hospitality people or bar owners aren't genuinely interested, but they also have to look after their own interests too. So like it's kind of reignited my passion for the business. I'd say it's just a side effect of COVID that we've had to deal direct with people. So no, that's been very good.
So when are you opening your pub?
When I don't need a driver's license anymore.
Well, we don't currently have any plans to get into the on-trade. The other thing I will say is having that direct line to the community around us has taken the creative shackles off a little bit. So we've been able to experiment a little bit more and maybe be a bit bolder about the beers we let out. And people are going to start seeing the fruits of that. Well, I suppose the spice bag saison is the first iteration of that. You're going to see a lot of different experimental beers over the next 6 or 8 months, I suspect.
Yeah,
if he lets me brew them.
Just touching on the pubs there, Peter's just asked in the comments, how do you do in the local pubs? Well, anyone remember pubs, but how do you do generally when they're actually open?
We've built up a really good trade locally. We're in all the pubs and restaurants in the Midlands that do food and do good business. Like we are in all of them, or 90% of them, I would suspect. And that was a like 6 years or 5.5 years of building that up before it got shut down. How it's going to look over the next few months, who knows? We don't know. Publicans themselves don't know. So it'll be interesting to see, do we get back into it in exactly the same way? Do we hit the ground running, or is it going to be a case of having to rebuild a lot of it? I suspect there's going to be a bit of rebuilding to be done. A lot of the trade we do locally is tourism dependent. That's not because we don't get support from local people, but it's because the places where our beer is poured, the pubs and restaurants, a lot of their trade is tourism dependent. So it'll be interesting this year. I'm not expecting huge amounts, but I'm expecting to have a certain amount of rebuilding to do. Yeah.
I expect the big breweries will come in swinging early doors.
They will, but don't they always? I mean, they're just doing their jobs too. So I don't get too excited about that. And be honest, I would have every faith in the publicans that we deal with. They took a leap of faith with us originally, and I don't see any reason why they wouldn't do it again. I'd be surprised if they did.
Yeah, absolutely. Liam, you brought up the spice bag saison there a minute ago, and obviously it went down an absolute.
I brought a bottle to show you all. I love the label, so I brought it.
It went down an absolute treat on Saturday night. Everyone absolutely loved it. Well, how's the response been to it since then?
Great, yeah. We had a great night Saturday night. We launched the spice bag saison. We got the story behind it is one of our beers. It's not the Asher Look. One of our beers recommends spice bag as a food pairing, and we were looking at things we could do for our shop in terms of snacks, and one of the guys suggested a spice bag mix. So he put us in touch with Aaron Kapil, who owns Green Saffron. He imports fresh spices from India. He's direct links to Indian farmers. He buys their spices. So he put together a spice mix for us for a spice bag. And my mind was blown. He delivered up the spice mixes, and the fresh smell from these spices was mind blowing. I couldn't believe it. Nothing like what you get in your average spice drawer in a kitchen. So I decided I wanted to put it into a beer, and that's where the spice bag saison came from. Saison's a great style of beer for showcasing other flavors aside from what comes from the beer. So that's why we chose that style. Yeah, it's going down really well. It's available on our web shop.
Yeah, I'm sure Owen's typing the link in there as we speak now.
Already did.
It's fantastic.
It's not Green Saffron's first foray into beer. They did one with 8 Degrees years back.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, they did a Christmas beer with 8 Degrees. Rich, do you remember?
I do remember it, and actually, what I remember about it was I got a whole box of it as a prize in one of the homebrew competitions once, and it took me forever to drink.
Hard work.
It was quite nice, but you wouldn't want more than a bottle at a time. So.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, that was a perfect link in there. Liam and Owen, don't go anywhere now for a few minutes, but we'll bring Richie in and I'll say hello, I guess.
Thanks very much.
How are you getting on?
Yeah, great. So for anyone who doesn't know me, I'm Richie Hamilton from Hope Beer. I'm the head brewer there. We are microbrewery in Kilbarrack in North Dublin. We've been on the go for almost 5 years. It's going to be our birthday this summer, and you can expect, hopefully, to hear about some exciting kind of celebrations next month. We've brewed a couple of special beers, and we've rerun one of our old specials, and it's all very exciting. So yeah, we're a pretty kind of small team. We've got 4 people in production, 2 people in sales. We've got Vim is the general kind of manager and does a bit of everything, and Jean, his wife, is a founder, and she does a lot of work behind the scenes too. And we've got a part-time marketing guy, Nigel. So yeah, we're kind of pretty small, but we're going strong at the moment. I think COVID has done, it's obviously killed all of our pub sales, but on the upside, our canning has gone through the roof. We bought a canner at Christmas. We're all still getting to terms with the labeler, which is still acting up, but the canner's running smoothly. So yeah, we've been having lots of fun. We've canned, I think we hit our 200,000th can. Is that right? Or is that, anyway, some large number last week in only a couple of months. So we're flying through it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's pretty impressive. It's a lot of cans. Richard is saying, did every brewery get a canning line from Santa?
Oh man, yeah.
Plenty of them floating around now anyway.
Santa's after sale service is very poor. I wouldn't get one from him.
Yeah.
Summer seasonal.
So yeah, the summer seasonal. Every year we do 2 seasonals, summer and winter, because those are the 2 seasons in Ireland. And this year we went for something quite different to last year. If anyone remembers last year, we had a kind of quite a bitter. It was up in the kind of mid 5%. It was really. I really drove that one because I really love bitter IPAs, and we went completely the opposite direction this year. So we've really tried to cut the bitterness right back. We've used almost no hops in the kettle at all, and they would be typically where the bitterness comes from. We loaded them into the whirlpool and we dry hopped. So it's pretty pale. We've used an extra pale malt from the UK, extra pale Maris Otter from Fawcett's, to keep the color really down, but to give it a bit of character as well. And we used a couple of hops that we'd never used before, which was pretty exciting. So there's a good bit of Amarillo in there, which is like a mainstay to a lot of breweries. I always find it gives a lot of kind of orangey sort of tangerine sort of flavors, and it's great. But we tried one called Belma, which we got from Crosby Farms in the Pacific Northwest through Loughran's. We get a lot of our hops from there, and I'd always read that it's supposed to give a real kind of strawberry flavor. And I was really delighted when, we got, I don't know, maybe I was imagining it, but it seemed to be quite strong on the nose for me anyway. I was getting a bit of strawberry. We also used one called Meridian, which we hadn't used before. And it's also supposed to provide kind of berry flavors. So instead of the usual kind of resiny, piney thing that we get from a lot of our hoppy beers, we tried to go towards the fruity side, which is a little bit new for us. It's a session strength, 3.6. It's supposed to be a big, not big. It's supposed to be a really kind of quaffable summer drink, and that's what we went for. So there you go.
I definitely got the sort of Skittles opal fruits.
Yeah,
fruity thing.
Yeah, exactly. There's all sorts of kind of. It's really interesting. There's all sorts of strange kind of tropical, soft kind of fruit flavors. And
sorry, I just realized I'm showing my age there. Starburst.
No, Skittles and Starbursts were opal fruits. Yeah.
The thing that really interested me about that beer was the carbonation is very low.
Yeah.
So I got this mad sort of Jarlon cask, the real ill kind of sort of fruity end of the pale and hoppy spectrum from it, which is exactly what you want for the summer.
Absolutely. So normally, I find at Hope our carbonation tends to be quite high, and it suits some of our styles. It kind of tends to be what our sort of customer wants. A lot of our fans would not necessarily be in the kind of beer aficionados sort of. We're also a very local brewery. The kind of people who wouldn't see themselves as kind of craft beer geeks or whatever also kind of like our beers. So we tend to go fizzy because it's what people expect. But this one we really couldn't, I thought, because it's such a low ABV. The hop flavors are so delicate. I didn't want it blown away by, when you get a low alcohol beer, if it's too fizzy, it can often really thin it out and make it taste really thin. So you lose all of that. So we went kind of quite low for us. So that's why that is.
Yeah, I think the word
I'd
session.
agree with that. Sorry, John. I'd agree with that, Richard. Actually, I think the carbonation level in that beer really accentuates the hops. Actually.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that's great. It's great to hear. And actually, John, I found that before. I remember being at the Great British Beer Festival once and drinking Torpedo on cask. They'd got a bunch of American casks over, and I was delighted. And it was a completely different drink. It just, there were flavors there that you never get from the can or from the normal draft or from the bottle, particularly like kind of peach flavors, things like that, which must have been coming from the same hops, but just because it was such low carbonation, you'd never normally get them. So it's a really interesting experiment.
It's one of those things. The word session really gets thrown around as a marketing term a lot. And there are plenty of so-called session beers out there that you would not be able to drink 4 or 5 of in a row. And carbonation is a big part of that, I think. Yeah. But the other thing is that people say about low carbonation beers is that you lose the hops, that everything just disappears and you just get the malts. But there are plenty of beers like the hoppy cask classics, like Landlord, that do have a big pronounced hop character, so it can be done. And I think that your summer session is definitely an example of that.
Great. Yeah, because I'd spent so long talking about beer before, and say you try things like a bit of carbonation really lifts the hops onto the nose and all that sort of stuff. And then I found myself saying the opposite thing with this beer, that the low carbonation really kind of accentuates the hops as well. But there you go. I mean, I guess hops can kind of come to you in many different ways, I suppose, as we know. But so that's what we've gone with this summer. A few more things about this. Yeah, we used oats and flaked oats, and also for the first time we used raw barley in it, which I guess was to try and give it a bit of body again. Being so low alcohol, we tried to give it a bit of I guess just another way of just not throwing in a load of oats, which oats are fine. But
is this stuff called lactose? It's quite popular.
Yeah, but I'm intolerant to it.
Not enough people are.
Yeah, well, as anyone who there's a battle in the brewery whenever anyone kind of raises it. It has its place in a few beers, and we put one in at Christmas for, I think it was a beer we did for McHugh's, I think. The first Explorer series, the kind of Mexican chocolate stout kind of thing. It had to go in that because we were trying to do a hot chocolate type thing, but for the most part, I'm really not fond of lactose in beer, but has its place.
Yeah, it was subtle in that as well, and that was very welcome. I think it suited the beer. It actually worked.
The reason it was subtle was because I was kind of holding my nose. I was kind of reluctantly putting it in.
Yes. I obviously comments coming in. People really, really enjoying it. A lot of love for Hope, and the red IPA actually is getting love.
It did really well for us.
Is that going to come back?
Well, so that was last year's winter seasonal, and we were surprised actually. It did very well for us because the previous winter had been a black IPA, which it went okay. The winter seasonal, whatever it is, never sells as well as the summer seasonal, but the red IPA last year really took us by surprise. Did really well. Maybe something like it will come back in some form. We tend not to rerun beers that much. That said, we had a little poll of the favorite beer of our limited editions from the last while to see what we'd rebrew for our birthday, and we decided to rebrew Overnight Oats, which we brewed first, I think, about 2 years. We were still selling it when I got there, which was in 2019. I think it was still there, but I never brewed it. But we reran it again just there. So it will be. It was the one that won the little kind of online competition thing. So that'll be out. But we tend not to rerun them. But maybe something like it will come back. You know, there's only so many beer styles.
Nonsense.
There's a lot of love for the session beers as well. Session beer fans. So Amy, congratulations, Amy, after having a baby, and saying she's a big session beer fan at the moment after that. For this, you know, this definitely, if I was blind tasting this, I would not think it's 3.6%. It's
higher or lower?
Higher, definitely. Yeah. It's I don't know, maybe this is my first beer of the evening and I'm fairly hammering it now. But
I guess the big challenge of brewing a low alcohol beer is trying to keep it from tasting too watery. So one thing you can do obviously is mash the beer at a very high temperature, and you know, for all these kind of technical mash reasons, different sugars get broken down at different temperatures, and the higher you go, the more complex and the less fermentable the sugars might be. So we did that. Like I said, we put in some oats for body, for building body. We used some Cara pills as well, which is a very kind of light crystal malt, but has a bit of body as well. And we also used a yeast which is originally a kind of an English sort of strain, so it doesn't attenuate as much, which means it leaves more stuff behind, and it has a bit of character as well to it. It's not that it's not as clean as maybe the American ale yeast that we normally use. So all of that kind of goes towards making it. The aim is to make it taste a bit stronger, even though it's weaker.
Did you can all of it, or is there any sitting in sneaky kegs for?
We didn't keg any yet, but we just rebrewed it again yesterday or the day before. So there was no point kegging too early, but there'll be stuff kegged off this batch that's in time. So hopefully it will turn up in a few places around. I don't know around the country. We've just started distribution with an island-wide distributor. So we've suddenly started popping up in the north and in places around the rest of the country that we never were before. And I think that will also count for kegs. So you never know, in some of the specialist places around the country, we might get some kegs down where we've never really done any taps, except for maybe the odd one in the beer house or something like that.
Yeah.
So hopefully it'll pop up. But yeah, there will be kegs.
Is there an option for cask?
That'd be great. We're not that well up on cask. We've got a few tiny little pins, the little plastic 20-liter ones. We've done a cask once or twice for like the Underdog or somewhere like that. But yeah, so we'd probably do that. We usually do that at short notice. Cool. And bung it in the warm room for a week and hope it warms up. And yeah. Nice.
We had a lot of cask chat last night, actually. The event last night, a lot of huge demand, we'll say. There's going to be a massive resurgence. We've no doubt about it. So
I'd love to see it, like, because it seemed that there was more a couple of years ago, and then it seemed to die off again. Because I don't know. I remember there was fairly regular cask in some of the Galway Bay places, and then they kind of, maybe I just wasn't in them as much, but they seem to be less. There seemed to be less kind of less choice, and then yeah, hopefully it'll come back. It's nice to see a few taps around the place.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Just jump to a few comments here. Harold says, yeah, great aroma, flavor for low ABV. Well done, Hope. Really enjoying it. James's favorite was the oak aged stout that got him through winter. That was lovely.
Yeah, that was great.
Stephen was asking, any chance of a collab between yourselves and Hoop?
Well, so yes, I mean we kind of have to at some point. I mean they steal our recipes, so if you want to call that a collab, that's no, they don't really. But so if anyone doesn't know, we have our founder is Dutch and well, Dutch Irish, half and half, and he we have a kind of sister brewery in Zaandam, just north of Amsterdam, which was set up at the same time by a friend of our founder. And he's also an investor in our brewery. So we keep very close because we've got the exact same equipment and we use the same artist. The designer is a friend of theirs in Amsterdam. So he does all of our artwork. And it kind of rather hilariously, they're called Hoop. So we're Hope and they're Hoop.
I understand from Vim it's pronounced Hope.
It's pronounced Hope, but come on, we're in Dublin. And We've actually just had so we've expanded our team recently. We've got 2 new guys on the floor with us to replace Johnny, who was a long-standing member of our team, but his partner got a really good job in Amsterdam, and he decided to move with her. And as luck would have it, Hope we're looking for a brewer, so he's kind of left on a Bosman transfer. So to speak. So yeah, I'd say now that we have our kind of operative in their brewery, maybe we'll have a proper collaboration. We did go to visit them last year, just before the lockdown. The 4 of us, Vim and the 3 brewers, went over to see, because the nice thing was we were having trouble with our brewery, they were having trouble with their brewery. Minor things, but none of the problems were the same. So we could go over and see why they weren't having certain problems with their malt chute or whatever, and they could see why, ask why we weren't having problems with this particular valve or whatever. So we've been on fact-finding missions.
Okay, very good.
Well, it's nice having a failover brewery.
It's like having a kind of an evil twin or something, or
Hey, which one's evil? How do we know you're not the evil twin?
That's people have often asked me that.
I'm going to ask Liam. I can see Liam sipping away on it there. How are you finding it?
Lovely, really nice. Yeah. I have to say I've never had a bad beer from Hope. Yeah, I really like it. It's great aroma out of it. Nice bit of body. Carbonation for me is what I like. You were talking about cask beer, and I was thinking back to my time in Edinburgh. There was a great beer on cask in Edinburgh called Jukers, which was a pale ale, and it was about 3.8%, and from the Caledonian Brewery, which is owned by Heineken. But this stuff, when it came fresh out of the brewery and you got it on cask, because it's I constantly think about it, and I can't wait to get back over to Edinburgh to try it again.
I have a nasty feeling it's changed, because it won the Champion Beer of Britain in about 1990.
Well, I was drinking it in 2005, 2006, and it was amazing. It was an amazing beer.
They had an absolutely wonderful tagline as well. It was "You're due at Jukers."
Yeah. Oh, I drank gallons of the stuff. So I'm constantly. We have friends in Edinburgh, myself and my wife. I'm constantly trying to get a visit over so I can go and drink a few more gallons of it. But this has brought that back into my head because of the light carbonation and the beautiful aroma. The other great thing about having Hope on the call is that nobody can say this tasting was hopeless. So,
99p in Wetherspoons in Derry, Liam, according to Brendan.
Well, I need to get myself up in Derry. It's probably not as fresh. Probably not as fresh in Derry as it is in the Blue Apron in Edinburgh, but it's probably not bad.
Nice. I'll throw this out there. We had our very tenuous categorization of a comparison between a lager and an ale for our to kick things off. I'll throw it out to either of yourselves, Liam or Richie. So what's the difference between a lager and an ale, I suppose?
Go on, Richie.
Well, I have a lot
I get asked it a lot. I'm looking for some new material.
I have a lot to say about this, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure there's enough time. I think the technical differences that are usually pointed to are actually largely irrelevant. I think people talk about the different yeast strain. Fair enough. They talk about different fermentation temperatures, but really I think it's kind of more of a functional term. It's to do with the family of hop types that are used in a lager. It's to do with I guess the type of malts that are used, and so. Even when some things are called lagers, but they use ale hops, they're going to taste like a pale ale. Like Brooklyn lager, for instance, doesn't taste like a lager as far as I'm concerned, and vice versa. If you have an ale with loads of traditional German hops and whatever, it's not going to taste, it's going to taste more like a lager. So, but I think neither of these are. Well, certainly the Bock is kind of a. It's quite different for a lager for me, because it's so high strength, and it's or at least it's higher strength than you'd expect, and it's got all that body where normally when people think of lager, if they say things like I like lager, I don't like ale, they usually mean like a very easy drinking kind of low body sort of beer, whereas this is a completely different type of thing. So there's just such a massive family of both of them. It's such a hard question to approach.
Yeah, I think it's a good illustration that we have a full-bodied lager and a light-bodied ale.
A really light, easy drinking ale. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was exactly the plan.
I think you have to go back to what lager means. Lager means storage. And I might have my history wrong here, but I think it was the cold storage of beer that created the lager yeast in the first place. So really, the whole thing comes from prolonged storage at cold temperatures, and that's what a lager is really. And everything that's been built onto the lager name since that, I would suggest, has just been built onto it. It was really just beer that's been stored for a very long time.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that'll do. That's perfect. One last question before we move on. We're going to go into our wheaty category next. That's a heads up for everyone who's getting beers out of the fridge. Maeve has asked to you, Richie, how come you match this beer with Clinton's Great Crisps? Is it a Northside thing?
Of course, it's a Northside thing. So Clinton's are, I think, a company quite new to the market, and I'm not entirely sure how the kind of association came about, but I think they're based actually in Skerries, where I am now. I think that the potatoes are grown near here, and I think they make them not too far away, possibly Ashburn. But it is a kind of a Northside thing. We got in contact with them and we decided to pair up a little bit. So we've recommended Clinton's Crisps with a few of our beers for pairing. They're actually lovely. They've the usual flavors, and they're local and they're small business, and so we like to kind of pair up with that sort of thing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And I don't see Owen putting the link for Clinton's Crisps in the chat there. I don't know why that is.
Don't have it.
StMelsBrewing.com.
Possibly.
Are they on StMelsBrewing.com, Owen?
www.stmelsbrewing.com/shop, Liam. I don't think so.
Yeah.
They're beside the spice bag, says on. Okay, lads.
We've actually got teamed up with Kyo's there, lads, and we're trying to figure out something to do with those boys up in the Knoll. So similar, if not quite the same.
Nice. You got the last pitch in at the end. Well done, Owen. Owen, Liam, Richie, absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks to everybody. Thanks,
guys.
Thanks a million. Thanks so much for doing it, Brian. It's great.
No worries at all. Yeah, of course. Stay on for as long as you can, and have a few beers and have a listen in. Absolute pleasure, lads, as always. Really appreciate it. And sure.
Cheers, Brian. Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
No worries. Okay, so now it's time we're going to start off with Dead Center. We're going to go across the pond with our American wheat ale. So is Liam with us?
I am.
There you
down here.
Fantastic entrance, Liam. Love it.
Thanks very much. I'm all about the entrance.
How are you doing?
I'm great, yeah. Busy day. I can't wait to have about 7 more of these beers, to be honest with you.
Brilliant, yeah. Great way to unwind. Okay, so while you're cracking that open, while everyone's cracking it open, pouring it, getting acquainted to it, why don't you, I suppose, introduce yourself and tell us a bit about Dead Center too?
Oh, people are surely sick of that spiel, are they?
Maybe not.
No, give me it.
Okay, so my name is Liam Tutty, and I started Dead Center Brewing in 17-ish, maybe 2017, as a contract brand with Liam and Owen out of St. Mel's, and we opened our bar and restaurant and brewery in Athlone in March 2019, and we started to brew in there about a year after that. So it was a slow burn. And that's pretty much it. We've been brewing ever since, not doing so much of the pint slinging and pizza firing out thing with COVID, but we keep the brewery busy regardless.
Okay, fantastic. So for this one, John has taken the lead on our Across the Pond.
That means I should probably taste it.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm in trouble here.
Yeah.
So I got as far as the label, and American wheat ale is one of those styles or phrases that has evolved in meaning over the last 10 to 15 years.
Over the last 6 months, John, to be honest with you notice across the pond is in new clothes. We had brewed it originally as a collaboration.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we rebrewed it. We brewed it first in 2019 for July 4th for Independence Day with the guys in Crisis. We rebrewed it the next year without the guys in Crisis, but we didn't want to be cheeky and included them on there anyway. We rebrewed it again earlier this year and included them on it. But every time we've brewed it, it's been a different beer. So we said, look, it's finally probably transitioned to the point where we can just call this our beer.
Oh, yeah.
So
American wheat ale, and I'm trying to think Sierra Nevada had one back in the early 2000s and probably earlier than that, and it just meant a Weiss beer except brewed with clean American yeast instead of fruity German yeast. And one of the I think few surviving examples of it is O'Hara's Currim that's still there, and it's this almost lagery style, sort of clean, crisp beer. But American has since come to mean sea hops, citrus flavors.
100%, yeah. Because I was just going to pipe in with well, this is not that.
Yeah. So the big sort of lemon zest
exactly
from the start.
Yeah. So it's it is largely like it's a probably a stupid proportion of the grain bill is Chateau wheat. We use Chateau Wheat Blanc. It's a lovely pale wheat, so it gives it that lovely kind of really light colour. But we're pushing about 35% of the grain bill as that Chateau Wheat Blanc, so it's a fairly sizable. I think they recommend that you max out on that grain at about 40%. So we're pushing it up there. The remainder then is just pale malt and pilsner. So yeah, like the grain bill probably isn't a million miles off a standard Weiss.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously this is fermented on a clean yeast, as you said. This is on Wicklow Hops Company, so it's on WHC Lax, which is their US05 basically. But then it's hopped completely differently, So we're in this one. We have Mandarina, Bavaria, Citra, and Amarillo. I'm a big fan of Citra and Amarillo paired. We do it in more than one beer, if I'm perfectly honest. We do it in our standard pale ale has a Citra and Amarillo charge exclusively, and Silhouettes, which is our double dry hops pale ale, is Citra and Amarillo as well, but on speed, Yeah.
Was it difficult to not badge it as an IPA because everything is IPA now?
We had this conversation, this exact conversation, Brian. I swear to God, it was exactly.
I hope Dave Guilfoyle's not on this, is he?
Oh, Jesus. All I got was 20 minutes of abuse for using the phrase black IPA instead of Cascadian Dark Ale. But no, the story that I always use is I was a big fan of, and I'm sorry, Brian Call's hearing this for about the 17th time, but I was a big fan of Sundown, which was an amber ale that Third Barrel I think it was, sorry, I'm trying to remember it was Stone Barrel at the time, sorry. Stone Barrel did. And I remember talking to Kevin saying, that's a cracking amber. I love an amber. You don't get so many of them. I'm going to make one myself. And that was the precursor to Sham Mats. And he said, well, for the love of God, whatever you do, call it a red IPA. It'll sell way quicker. But we didn't do that. We didn't do that here either. And in fairness, there probably is, with that quantity of wheat and the colour of the beer, you could probably get away with a white IPA or something along those lines. Yeah. But the whole intent of the beer was an American wheat ale, so that's exactly what we've called it.
Mm. Okay. Did it have a stateside twin?
Mm. So when we brewed originally, we brewed on Skype. So we brewed on the same day as Sean did, which was shit for Sean, because that's a great name for a beer, by the way. Because he was brewing until 2 a.m. It was, or did he start brewing at 2 a.m? I can't remember, but I remember he was tired, and rightfully so. So we brewed it side by side on Skype, and then they served it. And we actually, whatever way the time difference worked out, we were able to tap them simultaneously. and start to pour them simultaneously. So it was a nice little story. But the beer, oddly enough, I think we kind of went to Sean with, this is how we'd like to do the beer. And he came back and said, well, I think we should do this. And I suppose every collaboration is a negotiation. So for the second year, we brewed it the way we wanted to brew it the first year. And then this year is largely the same beer. Grain is completely untouched. Hop additions have gone up slightly. I think that probably shows. And Roger changed a couple of things as well, just kind of build body in there, even though I know we say, we're hitting 35% of the grain bill as wheat. But he just played around with the mash temperature as well to get some more body in there too. I think this is probably a little bit, even from the last batch, which was earlier this year, it's probably a little bit fuller. I think the last one, and we still describe it as a light and spritzy ale, whereas I think this is probably moved a little bit away from that, more to the not soft and juicy, but in that direction.
Okay, excellent. I'll ask people how they're finding it. I can see a good bit of love coming in early doors here. Robin is saying, wow, love the smell. Brendan said, that's lovely, great aroma. I find that I'm enjoying beers labelled extra pale, even if I'm not sure what exactly that means or if it's a defined thing. Can anyone answer that?
Well, oddly enough, Simon Broderick, who is now gainfully employed with Galway Bay Brewery, Simon called in to see us this morning. Well, I say he called in to see us. He was there to sell beer. Like, it's a fucking job. That's what he's meant to be doing. But he called in to see us for the chat anyway. And we had an extra pale ale mashing today, a beer called Common Element. I think we spoke about that on the last call as well. Extra pale there seems to be a lot of love for them at the moment. So it's definitely out there a bit more than it had.
I think Torpedo was the first beer to have that on the label, and it's a stone cold banger. So,
and I can't remember. Somebody else will know, but I think one of the Sweetwater beers is an extra pale as well. Like, off the top of my head, I can't remember. But.
And then Galway Bay used it for Goodbye Blue Monday.
Did they?
Well, yeah, that was an extra pale ale.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was an oatmeal pale ale.
Maybe.
I'm not sure. It's a cracking beer. I know that much.
Speaking of Simon Broderick, actually, last week or at the weekend when we were having the St. Mel's birthday bash, he also turned up at Liam Hanlon's door mid recording, looking for beer. So he seems to get around, doesn't he?
Beer smilage.
Yeah. I think he might be on. I think he has a Friday box.
He is on. He is. Yeah, he knows.
Is he on? Is he? Oh, okay.
Goodbye Blue Monday was definitely sold as an oatmeal IPA.
Okay.
That's what Keane is saying.
Am I thinking of something else? I definitely use extra. Galway Bay definitely use extra pale ale for something.
Yeah,
somebody on here will know.
yeah. Catching up on comments here, I see Lisa saying we did this and everything IPA, or they did kind of a wheat beer podcast on the Beer Ladies podcast recently. So that's well worth checking out in this for fans of the style in this category.
Does this feature it?
I don't know actually.
No, well then I'm grand.
Your distribution on the East Coast is very poor. I was delighted to see Dead Centre Beer coming over here.
Our distribution on every coast has been relatively poor, to be fair. I think just to get into that actually, because we started the brewery in the tap room very much as this brewery used to produce kegs. It's a 600 litre kit. It's ideal for producing kegs and pouring them at the bar, which is great because we just made a batch of Secret Sunshine the other day for keg, which is brilliant. But for canned beers, it's, to be honest with you, it's just it's crazy. It's, you can't really can beers out of that kit. So you can, but you'd be broken by the end of it. So we generally find we ban at catch of specials. And it doesn't really get too far. By the time you go to your local stockists and the regulars around you who buy it from you, it's kind of gone in a couple of days, and it doesn't get much further.
Which is the point of being a local brewery.
Well, that's the whole thing, and I still maintain that's where things are going. It's great to saturate the country, but if you can't convince the people next door to drink it, there's something very wrong.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Just to catch up on a few comments and questions here, Harold was asking, how cold should you drink this one? Should it be straight from the fridge, or should you take it out for a little bit, or what?
I drink it as a standard ale, so kind of, you know, your regular temperatures. For me, probably, you know, 4 to 6 degrees is fine for this, but it's whatever you're into, really. But that's where I drink it. But yeah, sorry, for me, straight from the fridge, yes. But somebody else may disagree, and that's fair enough.
Yeah, personal preference. We'll put it down to.
Absolutely.
Then Maeve was asking, is there a connection between Dead Centre and Beer Cloud?
Yeah, the Beer Cloud is Dead Centre, basically, for all intents and purposes. So it's turned into a different beast now. It's grown legs that I didn't expect it to. But yeah, last year, kind of as soon as the lockdown was announced, I got in touch with the local breweries, so St. Mel's, Black Donkey, 12 Acres, Ballykilcavan, White Street, a couple of others I'm sure I'm missing, which is terrible. And just said, lads, look, I have a publican's license here. I can sell beer for you if you want. I won't take any cut out of it. I'll give you all the money from the sales. Kind of on the understanding that we've been selling beer online and we're selling maybe 3 or 4 cases a week. So I said, it's not going to be a big deal. But it turned into a big deal really quickly. So it kind of exploded. Like this month, I think we're at something like, people will know from their orders, but we've done about 21,000 orders over the last 12 months or whatever it is now, 13, 14 months, which is not at all where I expected it to be. So it's a bit of a different beast now. So we have a staff on it now. I think if anybody has any issues and gets in touch with Beer Cloud, you never hear back from me. It'll be either Kanishka, who, by the way, put in Trojan work as well for Indie Beer Week. I know yourself and Vaughn and Elizabeth were in touch with her a lot, because getting in touch with me is not going to get that done. Whereas Kanishka will get through it. Amy as well, who looks after our customer service, has been brilliant with people who, you know, and I think that probably surprised a lot of people as well. And in retrospect, I should have. There was probably a way that we could have built it into the autoresponder email that, you know, if you ordered an extravaganza pack, we couldn't strap them all together. It was too much beer, so they were sent out on 2 different labels. And sometimes that could arrive one day. You know, you get one box, and another day you get the other 2. You know, so Amy was dealing with a lot of customer queries. So there's Amy there, Petra and Thomas in packing, and John on ordering. So it's turned into a bit of a mammoth, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but it's fantastic to see, and it's grown. I don't know, it's given so many people so much joy getting beer delivered to the doors, which is amazing. And I currently have a gun to my head. I have to say this. I'm legally obliged to. But the ICBI would like to say how absolutely incredibly grateful they are to yourself and all the team at Beer Cloud for facilitating the orders, for getting all the beers out to people, and to be able to celebrate Indie Beer Week, essentially. Thank you so much.
We're active members of the ICBI. We see a real value in what it is that the guys do. And I know we had there was a conversation about this at one point, and we didn't want to be kind of brazen, and I still don't want to be. But the fact that, you know, a lot of the brewers donated the beer for these boxes, we're donating our time to build the boxes, and everything will go back into the ICBI to build a better kind of body for craft beer in Ireland. I think that's really important. You know, we didn't want to say other people are waving the Indie Beer Week flag to line their own pockets, but, you know, the guys that bought the boxes from Beer Cloud have actually basically put money into the coffers of Indie Beer Week and the ICBI, which I think is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic message. And yeah, just thank you so much from everyone. I think everyone here, see the comments coming in here. Lots of love for Beer Cloud and for the service, for everything in general. So yeah, fair play. Kudos.
As Liam said, you know, kind of building the retail section inside the brewery, we'd never done anything like this before either. So it's definitely been a steep learning curve. You know, it's a tough one. But luckily we deal with really nice people. And obviously things are going to go wrong. When you do 21,000 orders or whatever it is, a certain number of those orders are not going to go right. It's just the way it is. But generally, people are really patient and really tolerant, and we appreciate that as well,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think this is it's a perfect time. It's a perfect kind of sort of wrap up point, not really. With yourself, Liam, we're going to bring in James from Lough Gill, and for those of you who are on your haze potato chips, now's your time to get it out of the fridge, crack it open, pour it, enjoy it, taste it, see what you think. Hello, James. Are you with us?
I am, Brian. How are you doing?
Not too bad, thanks. Yourself?
Good. Well, I'm on my 4th beer now, so I'm fine.
I'm going to say absolutely 100% 10 out of 10 for effort at the backdrop. And I'm assuming that's not like a virtual background.
Well, you wouldn't believe me, but the truth is our electricity is off at home. So I said, right, I'm going into the brewery. So, and that's actually a true story. So, yeah. So I said, I'm going into the brewery. We'll do it in there. So it's fine. But
worked out well for us.
It worked out great. And I'm like, where do I sit in here? And I said, might as well sit in front of the tanks.
Yeah, love it. Lovely. James, why don't you introduce yourself and also introduce Lough Gill, please?
I will. So first off, I suppose, look, thanks for everyone for tuning in. That's the big thing. And also, again, I just want to thank Liam because he was the person who put all of the cans, our bottles, into the boxes and got them sent out to everyone. And then for myself then, so anyone that doesn't know me, my name is James. I'm the owner of Lough Gill Brewery here in Sligo. We're based right here in Sligo town. We have a 16 hectolitre brew house. We've been open since November 2016 was our first brew day. So we're coming up on our 5th year. I myself, I'm not a brewer. I've attempted home brewing several times, ended up with exploding bottles and beers that definitely would not sell on any market anywhere. I've been pulling pints since I was 12 years of age. So the beer, it's almost in my blood at this stage now. It's 12 years of age. I was pulling pints in my cousin's pub in Knock in Mayo. So I went from that. I had my own pubs here in Ireland. I worked as a sales rep for a craft beer distributor in New York, and that's how I got involved in what is craft beer. I really knew nothing about craft beer. I was a Budweiser drinker. I drank bottles of Budweiser till they literally wasn't anymore in the fridge when I was 17, 18, 19 years of age. And I got a job in the US working for a craft beer distributor. And it was just a new experience because we were selling different beers like Harpoon. We were selling Anchor Steam, lots of different craft beers from New York State. But that was my education. That was where I got into this craft beer industry. So yeah, basically that's the story of myself. And then came back to Ireland and I started Lough Gill Brewery in 2016. As I said, we're a very young team. We're a small brewery. There's about 6 of us here in the brewery. Apart from myself, I won't say my age, but everyone else is under 30. They're all young. I know a lot of people in here probably would be familiar with Jordan Donnelly. He's our head brewer. He's been brewing with us since he's going on his 4th year now, and he was the youngest commercial head brewer in Ireland. He's very, very good at what he does, willing to take risks, try out different styles, do a lot of experimentation. There last year we hired an assistant brewer. Dan is his name. His background is mostly pharmaceutical, and he actually he's brewed his own beer. It's Sink or Swim. It'll be released in July, and that'll be his first beer from start to finish, recipe formulation, everything. So he's been a great asset to us. We're based right here. As I said, we're Lough Gill Brewery. We're based right here in Sligo town. There is, it's great for the Northwest. There's a lot of breweries here in the Northwest, between Kinnegar, ourselves, and a couple of others. And here in Sligo, we are really trying to get as many people to drink and enjoy craft beer. I know that most of the bars here in Sligo town would support us. We probably have taps, I would say, in probably 90% of all the bars in County Sligo. Well, mostly the town, but also in some of the rural bars and restaurants as well. And yes, that's the gist of us and myself and how I got into it.
Amazing, brilliant. Thanks a million, James. Perfect introduction and overview.
My favorite thing about Lough Gill is that you're one of the most creative and downright weird breweries, and
Thanks,
that you're
John.
based in Sligo, and that you get the local support for things. I mean, the ultimate Lough Gill story for me is that for the All Tech Festival a couple of years ago, you did a Lucky Charms beer called Chucky Larms, which was this ridiculous marshmallow imperial candy stout, and now it's one of your core range, and it has this classy, understated label.
And I can tell you, actually, John, that beer is fastly becoming one of our best-selling beers in the US right now. We have that beer for sale in New York, New Jersey, Maine, and about 3 or 4 other states, and they love it.
Yeah, it's beautiful beer. It's really well made. It's no gimmick. It's quality all through.
No, it started off let's be honest about it. Who puts Lucky Charms in a stout? But it started off as a pure gimmick. If I was to show you the first label we did, it would be quite funny. But it was basically leprechauns and shenanigans and the whole shebang. But we said, no, we better stay away from that kind of thing. And but yeah, Chucky Larms it's done us justice. We're happy with it.
Yeah, super stuff. I was actually at All Tech, and I was chatting to Jordan at the stand as they came over to give the medals, and I took a few photos for him and sent them on to him. So yeah, it was fortunate timing. Yeah, lovely stuff. I just had poured it and was tasting it as it happened. Super beer.
Oh, that's very good.
On to the haze potato chips. Okay, so first of all, early comments. Ruben is saying, well, this is just delicious, all 6.4% of it. What is the beer, James? Tell us exactly what it is we're drinking at the moment.
So, sorry, just 1 second. So here's potato chips. This is not the first time this beer has been brewed. There's a bit of a story to this beer, so I better tell the story and then you'll understand why we ended up putting potatoes in the beer. So myself and Jordan, we come up with a plan to try and, I suppose, create more awareness for what we're doing in the US. So back in, I want to say it was 2018, but I think it's 2019. I just can't remember now with all these beers I've had. But we flew into New York. We drove 2,500 miles through 6 states, and we brewed in 9 different breweries while doing that. Basically, we would drive to a brewery in the morning, brew there for the day, leave that brewery, go to the next brewery, have a few beers, brew there the next day, and so on. And we met with Tin Man Brewery in Buffalo, New York. Mike Schatzel, great guy. He owns 7 bars in Buffalo, New York, and he owns a brewery. They call him the Mayor of Buffalo. We wanted to brew a New England IPA with an Irish twist. So when we arrived at the brewery, the brewer, he said to me, how do you fancy putting some potatoes in here? And I'm like, sure, why not? And I asked him, what's it going to do? What will it do to the beer? And he's telling me about the starch and what it will do and adding the different starch flavors to the beer. Meanwhile, I figured it will add a small bit of starch to the beer, but it's an Irish twist on a New England IPA. So we used the Nelson Sauvignon Citra, brewed it with them in Buffalo, New York. Then I suppose moved forward a few years, and we're here in COVID-19. We're trying to come up with different ideas, different ways of being creative, come up with, and we said we do a virtual collab with Tin Man again. And we said, well, why not rebrew the his potato chips? And yeah, that's how we ended up with this beer. I'm not the brewer, and Jordan ditched me tonight for a date night. So Yeah, I'm not the brewer, but that's the story of how his potato chips ended up with you guys.
Does the potato add to the gravity? Does it ferment?
No, as far as I'm aware, it doesn't. It really does just add to the starch in the beer.
Okay, interesting. We'll have to forgive Jordan for young love, I think.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's it. What type of potatoes did you use in it?
We use red potatoes. Funny story. Potatoes, there's a joke going around here, potatoes and putting potatoes into beers, but we did use just, I'm not sure the brand because, actually no, here in Ireland, I know exactly what we used. We used just the regular rooster potatoes, but in the US, when this was originally brewed, I'm not sure what potatoes we used. I do recall an incident with the customs in America where we were asked to bring potatoes to America to brew a stout over there before, and they wanted to make a rooster stout. So I'm going a bit off track here on about potatoes in beers. But so James decided it was a good idea to buy a 5-kilo bag of potatoes and put them into a suitcase. And everything went all right till the customs border control decided, well, no, you can't be bringing that stuff in here. And basically they seized all our potatoes. And that was our first attempt at brewing a beer in the US with potatoes. This is our second. True story again.
You'd really hope the local newspaper had Irish man has potatoes seized at border.
Yeah, the exact words from the guy, when I was brought into a private room to talk to, they asked me what is in my suitcase. I said to them, there is potatoes in my suitcase. And he looked at me and he opened the bag and he said, I thought you meant potato chips. I said, no, they're potatoes. That's a true story.
There was a thing on one of the English homebrew forums a few years back where somebody, as an experiment, tried to find out what was the cheapest way that you could make something that you could call beer. Like, what was the cheapest source of fermentable sugar? And he came up with potatoes and converting the starch in potatoes to fermentable sugars. And he produced a beer which he called Spudmiser.
Oh, maybe that could be the next one.
There you go. It's free.
Yeah. Excellent. Some great comments here coming in, James. A lot of love for the brewery. Super stuff. Great story behind it. So yeah, Jason Kent is saying, love this. Now I want some crisps. I'm sure there's some available on St. Mel's brew shop, web shop. Wiser Spuddy. Yeah, excellent. I'll ask again about people, any questions for James, by all means, pop them in the box there. Let us know how you're getting on with the beer too. And it'll be good to hear from some of the brewers in the chat box how you go about getting some convertible sugars.
Hope had a crisp pairing on their summer session as well.
They did. I think we had the link for the crisps in the chat earlier. There's plenty of places to get your crisps here, folks.
It's the next big thing.
Sorry, James?
It's the next big thing. Crisps and beer. That's COVID-19 here.
There was a comment back there saying loving the Aldi beers, which are super. In particular, I love the native IPA. It's gorgeous. How have you found working with Aldi?
Look, they're a big retailer. They have 144 shops. They put an order in. You agree a price with them. Everyone says yes. They beat you down on price. Look, from my perspective, running a brewery here in the west of Ireland, you're looking for as much retail space as you can get. We enjoy working with Aldi because they've picked beers that we actually enjoy to brew. So we're brewing a session, like we have Rough Wave there in Aldi. It's a 3.8% session IPA. You can definitely drink numerous amount of cans of those beer. Thoroughly enjoy it. Then we have the native 5.5% red IPA. Again, it's another beer. I think we're going on our third year with that as an Aldi listing. And on the other side is another beer that we have with Aldi. And again, it's one that we enjoy drinking ourselves. But working with Aldi, it's been good. Look, it's 144 shops to get listed in. yeah, from a business owner's perspective, they pay on time, and they help the business to grow. They help our beers to get out into a wider audience. So like there's an Aldi near everybody nowadays. So it gives everyone an opportunity to try what it is we're doing, and then they can come and try other beers that we do as well here by either buying them through online with Dead Centre or buying them through many of the independents.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we've had a good few people on in the past talking who went through the Lidl program. I know like David and Ballykilcavan and Fergal in 4 provinces, and they've nothing but extremely positive things to say. They've been a huge lifeline, excellent to deal with. Don't cut you on price or anything like that. No. So it's great to hear. Absolutely great to hear. Brilliant. A good bit of chat now. We're back into the cask chat, of course.
Okay.
Ruben is saying, can we get some McNutty on cask, please, in a pub?
I knew someone was going to ask that. Yeah. So McNutty is, for me personally, it's a delicious beer. It's very different. Definitely the macadamia nuts. Yesterday evening I cooked in the ovens and chopped up in a small little blitzer. I have all the macadamia nuts for the beer, for the brew that was brewed just there yesterday. And we've done it in cask, I want to say back in the Franwell Festival. I'm almost certain we did a cask for then. It's something, cask, it's not a big thing. It's not something, to be honest with you, we don't even really offer us that much in keg. It's just, it can be so different in the bars here in Sligo. Like we push the taps here in Sligo, and we push generally the IPAs, and we have a lager as well. But the McNutty can be different for them. Whereas if I give them a can of McNutty, they'll try the McNutty. Even a wide audience will try the McNutty and enjoy it.
Yeah, brilliant. more cask chat here. James is saying he had next year Rodney at the Franwell cask, and he had chocolate ox last night, and pure indulgence.
Chocolate ox is fantastic, amazing beer.
Chocolate ox is the concept for chocolate ox was just packed full of chocolate. What forms of chocolate can we get to put into this beer? And I tend to not try the beers out of tank until it's in the bright tank, because, I just find it's for me personally, until I get to the end, let's try it. Let's see how it is. And I think it is just a great solid beer without any artificial flavor. It is just chocolate and beer.
Yeah. So it's cholaka. It's like a cholaka. Yeah. So it's an early form of the chocolate processing.
It is pure raw chocolate, and it is one you do not tell the accountants that you bought. Because
it pays off.
Yeah, it does. It is just, I contacted Shalaka in the US to see could I get it, have to buy it through the UK. So, we put it in a beer and it's great, and we know we pay extreme price for it. And then a few weeks later, Brexit sends us another invoice for the taxes on it. So it's but it is using something like Shalaka, an excellent ingredient. Yeah,
no, it's fantastic. You get the full on chocolate assault without any kind of the sickly sweetness or artificial flavors. It was a stunning beer.
But the next year, Rodney, that was there's a guy from Cork, actually, Donica. He was working in a brewery in Dig Brew in Birmingham, and we were trying to come up with different beers that he could brew when he was over here. And we brewed the next year Rodney, and it was a great beer. Again, we put the nuts, the chocolate, everything. It was one of those beers. It worked from start to finish. It worked, and then we were trying to come up with a name. And the lads here, they're always looking for something, can we add in something new to the brewery, or can we buy something? And I'm like, next year, because we are a fully independent brewery. We are not owned by anyone, just ourselves. It's pure family, and we are growing. It's organic growth. We're trying to grow it as we take it in. And the next year, Rodney, and that's where that came from on that beer.
Yeah. Brilliant. I'm just looking at one eye on the clock here, James. We'll wrap it up very quickly. But there was a question from James Dundon there saying Ocean of Storms was one I missed out on. And is there any chance of more of that coming along?
Well, that was a collaboration with Wicklow Wolf. Another one, Oreos. Great collaboration. I went over to Tesco's and the Value Centre here in Sligo. I bought all the Oreos they had on the shelf. The guy in Tesco's thought I was absolutely bonkers. I told him it was for a beer, and I just don't think he got it, understood what I was saying. But yeah, right now, no, I don't think that's one we'll be doing. The next new beer that we have coming out is Ripple. So it's raspberry sour. We do a lot of different sours here. But this particular one now is just a straight up raspberry sour. And yeah, it's with John's favorite lactose in there. So that's the next release. Then we have Daniel Sink or Swim, which is going to be a West Coast IPA.
Fantastic. Lots to look forward to anyway. Exciting times. Happy days. That sounds incredible. James, it was an absolute pleasure. You're an absolute gentleman. Great story, great fun. I love hearing all about the brewery. Super beers. I think you'll see from the chat if you want to have a catch up, people absolutely really enjoying it. So fantastic stuff. Thank you so much.
Thanks, James. Take it easy.
You're welcome. Thanks, everybody. Thanks. Talk to you soon.
Cheers. And of course, stick around and have some more of the beers. You've had 4 already. You might as well keep going.
Taxi next. Remember, I'm not at home. Thank you, Brian.
Spot on. Cheers, James. Okay, so we're going to go over to Wicklow next. We're going to invite in Brian. Let's see now. Are you with us, Brian?
How's it going? You well?
Yeah, not too bad. Thanks yourself.
Not too bad now. Not too bad.
Good. Have you paid the power bill lately?
Typically in the middle of a brew today, just behind me there, one of the lights popped on me. So I've a bit of a rig here. I've got an old-fashioned lamp sitting beside me, so at least see something.
Nice. Well, Brian, hello, welcome. Absolute pleasure and great to be chatting again. Why don't you introduce yourself and Wicklow Brewery as well, please?
Yeah, my name's Brian. I'm the head brewer down here in Wicklow Brewery down in Red Cross here. For anyone that doesn't know us, we're a small little brew pub, and we've a lovely German-style beer hall here, and then out the back we've a caravan site and everything like that. And it all came together back in 2014 with our owners Lee and Ashley. They had the crazy idea of spending all their money and making a lovely brew house and brewery behind us here. And we kind of went on from there, and the beer we actually drink tonight is the first one we've ever brewed, and it's a real treat,
We're old Irish Red,
That's it. You can't beat them.
Is it a big seller for you? It's a weird one. It has its fans, but
it has its fans. But we always find the hotels, especially in Wicklow here. It's hard to keep the beer in there, By the time we brew it, it's nearly all gone. And then with a huge reaction with the canning of it there back in 2 months ago, it's been flying off the shelves for us. So it's great. People who love Reds just seem to pop out of the woodwork when you have it,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely there's a fan base there.
Absolutely.
It's a lot more. I mean, when people think of red ale and Irish ale in general, they think of one particular brand that's associated with one particular city in Leinster where it's not brewed. This one has a lot more body than that. There's a lot more heft to it. It's a fuller, more interesting beer than a lot of the Irish Reds. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it's just down to the way it's brewed. So basically good old Irish ale malt in there with a good step modification there, added in with a lot of melanoid and cara ambers, which is slightly unusual for red. Usually you're using a bit of chocolate malt or coffee malt at a low percentage. So that's kind of the big difference between this and the unmentionable one that's not brewed in Leinster anymore, or down in Leinster anymore. But so it's just that little bit different that way, and then we kind of keep the carbonation a little bit lower as well, so it's not quite as bright. Kind of let those caramel flavors, the toffee and a little bit of breadcrumb just kind of flow through it,
And are hops integral part of the recipe or an afterthought?
So the hops basically, we kind of need to all those melanoid malts and cara amber malts. I've had too many beers, I think. But they leave quite a lot of sweetness left over. So we have to balance that out. So like we have a good charge of bittering hops there. And then we use Fuggles just basically to give it the tiniest bit of hoppiness at the end, you know. Mm-hmm. Try to just give it a nice balance, because you need to let that those lovely toffee and caramel just shine through, you know.
Yeah. Is this a big seller in the pub?
In the pub, yeah. Especially kind of September right through to, I'd say, early July, and then it kind of dies off and the weather gets a bit better. But no, it's a very solid seller here, and I better say that because our bar manager here, Vinny, if I said otherwise, he'd probably come in and strangle me. But it's one of our big sellers.
Fantastic, yeah. I'll ask, as always, people having it, let us know in the comments how are you getting on with it. Are you enjoying it? How's it going down? Yeah, a few comments here. It's great to see a red being brewed outside of Kilkenny. So nice to see Lee and Ashley doing so well. I knew them well back in Red Cross when they didn't have a pub. Says Rebecca. This is usually on tap in the Glendalough Hotel.
Yeah, absolutely. It's obviously St. Kevin, the monastic city down there. It's a huge draw down there, because the tourists, the second they see that, they will go, I'm having that rather than having a Heineken or a Guinness. So it's a big seller down, and it's probably our biggest account for the red. And the guys down there are great as well. They really push Irish craft beer, and they really first thing they'll say to a tourist is, or anyone that really walks in and they go, what's good? They'll go St. Kevin's Red, which is it's great to see, you know.
It was one of my highlights of 2019 was being on a bus tour and getting to visit the Wicklow Brewery and having lunch on the tour. Yeah, it was great fun. So it must be fairly quiet up there at this stage.
So yeah, we're off Friday night here now. Usually we'd have about 250 people in the bar here. You know, music be banging and beer be flowing. But unfortunately, obviously everyone knows what's happened. Our keg room's empty, and you can see the crowd behind me. So obviously we're still doing that. But
yeah. So has the switch to the canning helped?
Yeah, like it's obviously we were much more into kegging our beer and kind of concentrating on kind of South Dublin, Wicklow, Wexford, and Waterford. But now we're more find us a lot more places with the canning, and our spread's really spreading out, you know. And especially back in 2016 when we started canning and bottling, people were kind of showing up going, "Oh, I had your Hellas or your Hopnut or whatever it may have been," and we had a look into you, and that's why we're staying in your caravan park or that type of thing, you know. So it was great to see that, and great to see everyone just coming in and having a great time and really enjoying the beers.
So you're expecting an influx of locals to the caravan park, or?
Oh, I'd say so. I might be doing the same myself, but we'll see. You know,
it is beautiful up there. It's a really nice part of the world. I hadn't been there before, but it's really nice.
Yeah, like a lot of people would have drove by it on the way to Wexford. It's literally 2 minutes off the N11, and it's in this nice little valley. And then we're talking, 5 minutes to Avoca on the other side. So it's really kind of a hidden gem. And to give you an idea of the size of the village, there's a shop and 2 pubs, and that's it. You know, it's very, very small. You'd actually, if you drove through the town, you'd miss it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I suppose jump to some comments here. Will was saying, great pub with great food and usually a nice bit of music too. So with just to touch on what John was saying there, Richard was saying with the campsite on site, you must be the perfect outdoor drinking venue. So hopefully the reopening goes well.
Yeah, like we do events and everything like that. Like we had a barbecue there last year, and all social distance and everything like that. But you get your barbecue and your food, and we kind of married the food and the beer together. And it's exactly what we do in the restaurant here as well. But kind of more a smoked barbecue kind of type of flavor, and it worked really, really well. And that's why if we can open up this summer, we'll see. And definitely going on next summer and stuff with the caravan park and the camping. We plan to do kind of bigger and better events. So maybe like mini beer festivals, have small gigs down there, that type of thing, and have obviously craft beer, Irish craft beer is pouring at it and that type of thing. So we just have to wait till we get to go ahead to start planning, really.
Huge. The comments have taken off now, so it's that time of the evening clearly when everyone's something in. I'm trying to catch up here, trying to pick some out. Like it's going down well anyway. I think it was Rebecca Becca said she had the red last night, really liking it. Richie there saying, really like the red. It's quite pale, and I love the English hop flavors. I suppose coming down the line then, Brian, like obviously it's hard to know about what's going to happen when reopening, but in terms of new brews or anything like that in the pipeline, have you got anything lined up?
Yeah, so I was kind of up until about 2-3 weeks ago, I was playing around with a few ideas, kind of, maybe a kettle sour, a couple of IPAs, then kind of moving past the summer. Obviously, the 12-12 will be coming back in some form. I haven't kind of nailed down a recipe of I'm happy with. I've tried a couple of coffee things. I've tried some lactose, which John probably wouldn't be too happy with, but your luck. Kind of just playing around with ideas for that at the moment. But it will be a big, heavy, beautiful imperial stout when we get there. And who knows? I might throw in a brown or two, and it's maybe even a canned stout. We'll see. You
have one of the most pleasing sets of winter seasonals.
Oh yeah,
because you have the numbers on the label, so you know exactly what you're drinking.
That's it, yeah. And it's the kind of the good thing about it is you get pictures every year as well. So you get people who are trying the 16, the 17, the 18, the 19, the 20, and they're comparing and they're kind of telling us how they aged and that type of thing. Like the likes of the 16, if anyone still has bottles, it's kind of gone in an arc. It was really, really good. Kind of went a bit crap, but now it's back to really, really good again.
Like Orval.
That's it exactly. Like, so it's a little bit of a pleasure and sometimes a danger to open one. But as they moved on, it's been great like that. So like last Christmas Day, I had the 19 and the 20 at Christmas dinner and then fell asleep. But it was a great. Just great being able to compare the two, kind of going, oh, it's interesting how the 19's age, it's mellowed out a bit, and it's kind of nice the way the barrel's really popping at the moment, but you kind of know that's going to disappear in 6 to 8 months, going to get a little bit more, blended and stuff. So it's probably one of my favorite styles and things to do is barrel age. It's just because it's especially high ABV beers, because they tend to change quite a lot as they breed in the barrel, and then when you stop that and leave them in the bottles and kind of condition them right, they can wow you and wonderful.
And are you getting fresh barrel stocks in every year?
Yeah, we are indeed. So we have a partnership with Periscourt Distillery, and if you haven't tried the whiskey, it's phenomenal. They're 18 year, it's pricey, but it's beautiful. But yeah, so we basically ring them up and we go, what's good? We have a chat with their head distiller and just kind of pick from there. So we might get a sherry cask and a bourbon barrel and this and that, and kind of put them together. Or else sometimes, like with the 20 there, we just went straight their 18-year-old. Once it was out, we just put our in and just let it sit. Yeah, which was fun. I just love the smell of the barrels as well. I'd sit there all day and just sniff it.
It's interesting seeing the Irish whiskey renaissance is finally catching up with the Irish beer renaissance. And now, you have to have that relationship. If you're a serious distillery, you have to have a brewery on side to.
Like for myself, it's amazing. Like I've seen all these distilleries opening up and kind of getting into gins and doing other things and buying in stock. But now that they're all finally really getting into the swing of it, and you're getting these beautiful whiskeys out there, and to marry them with the beer, it's phenomenal. Like my personal favorites are Black 16 stout with a nice whiskey, and just sit there and nice rainy night, fires on, beautiful.
Yeah, so tonight then.
Yeah.
Perfect. Brendan was saying this feels less carbonated from the can than it is on draft.
Yeah, no, that was the conscious choice. Obviously, with the can, a little bit of a different vessel. So I was kind of in the mind of, look, it's coming up to summer. You want to be able to drink something, kind of refresh it. You can get that through with the carbonation. It's just not. It's a bit more filling that way with the body as well. So I was thinking you kind of want to knock it back during the summer. So we kept it a little bit lower, and that just helped kind of. I think personally, I think it marries the two, the biscuit and the toffee and caramel a little bit better than when it's on draft.
Yeah, sure.
That's interesting. An Irish red that works better in cans than on draft.
It's beautiful.
That's quite a statement.
Absolutely, it's beautiful on cask, but we won't get into that.
No. We'll save the cask chat. Yeah. You kind of touched on it there, Brian, but there's a lot of chat going on in the chat there about can sizes. And I suppose, well, firstly, the reason to go for a 330 for the red initially, but then just in general, I suppose, over can sizes, 330, 440, 500 mil. Sort of be chat going on there.
Yeah, so well, for us, when we started, 440s weren't the thing when we started canning, and we were kind of just having conversations. Will we switch? And every time we go to do a beer, we always go, will we go 440? And then we kind of line up the beers and kind of go, if we go 440, it's going to look a bit weird on our shelf here. But yeah, it's kind of a conscious decision we just made. It was like, look, we'll keep it 330 for the moment anyway. God knows what will happen down the line. We could just decide. But yeah, it's we're happy with them for the moment. Now, if something like if we went to can our lager, the Hellas, or our wheat beer, kind of sessionable beers and stuff like that, we might consider it. But I don't know. It's just one of the things. We kind of made a decision and we've just barreled through with it. You know.
I think it's one of those things. There's no right answer.
Well, that's it. Yeah, like that's the big thing about it. It's they will come back into fashion, and we'll be right at the top. You know.
Yeah. If you do 440s, if you do your WB40, you can call it WB440, and it goes in the big can.
I'm robbing that, Brian. I'm robbing that now.
Yeah. more than welcome. Yeah. This is obviously it's going down very well. People have either already had it or are really, really enjoying it at the moment. So yeah, super beer. Excellent stuff.
It's become kind of a specialist thing, red ale, because a lot of breweries have either dropped it or aren't interested in doing it. And how do you find that it sales wise it compares to the IPAs?
The IPA, it's kind of it's up and down. So like the Reds, I'm not like about 2 years ago, I was considering approaching Lee and Ashing and look, the Red's not moving. You know, we weren't quite at the situation where we were hitting our best before date and going, what are we going to do with all this beer? But I was kind of watching the other beers, and the Red, kind of going, geez, it's moving a bit slow. Should we put something else on? But we stuck with it anyway because we've got a few diehard followers here down in Red Cross. So we stuck it on, but then the sales kind of shot back up. No reason why, we just did. We didn't do any extra promotion or anything like that, but there you go. So like compared to the likes of our lagers are big seller on draft anyway, but compared to that, it's I'd say it's a close third, you know.
Right,
and so far in the cans and bottles, it's hard to know yet kind of what way it'll end up because it is quite new. But the initial response to it anyway has been phenomenal with sales wise. So kind of second, third, fourth, fifth orders, we'll kind of know then, all right, we'll sell X amount of units a month, and then we'll have a better idea. But so far so good. It's kind of it's an exploitable niche, I think, at this stage. That's it. Like
we had for it.
Yeah, we had so many of them, and there is still quite a few out there. It's just it kind of seems to have been I don't know if it was the Holy Trinity that everyone had back in the day. Yeah, but it's kind of like the one that got sacrificed was the Red. But there you go. Yeah, so it's one of those things. It'll be back in vogue someday.
Cool.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you're at the forefront of it. Definitely, you're perfectly positioned to ride that wave when it comes in. I can see Ruben was asking here: have you considered doing an Imperial Red Ale, or have you already done one that he's forgotten about?
I've kind of only on the small scale. So we do. We have a rotational tap here we've a small pilot system, and that's kind of going all the time. And I have done one on the small scale. I just kind of haven't hit a recipe where I'm like, I want to put this in a can or a bottle and sell it. It's just, I just haven't nailed it yet, you know what I mean? But one day.
Ruben has a very good recipe.
We'll chat later.
Yeah, there you go. Just post it in the chat there, Ruben. Full recipe. Brian, absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. I'm having a look now, and at bringing in Moss with our Flemish Red, our Liminal 26. A pleasure as always chatting, and please stick around for some beers anyway, and stay on. Thanks a mil.
Thanks Brian.
Mil. Cheers. Thank you.
Absolute gent. Okay, Moss, are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me? Is the main question.
Yeah,
we can hear you, and I can see you this time as well. Amazing. Happy days. loving the jumper.
Well, I thought I didn't have the barrels behind me today, so I thought, I might get some branding to remind people who I am or what we do.
Lovely, lovely. You know, you can do the virtual backgrounds on Zoom. You could have had your virtual barrels behind you. Anyway, right, okay. now that we know what yeah. Now that we know what brewery you're with, I suppose, why don't you introduce yourself, Moss, and introduce Canvas as well?
Yeah, so I'm Moss. I'm from Canvas, in case you didn't notice. And I'm the brewer, the farmer, the maltster, the engineer, the sort of all the different hats, basically. So we're a small farmhouse brewery in northwest Tipperary. We brew on a 250 litre system, which is about 4 times smaller than probably anyone else. And we do lots of different beers. So a lot based off our own ingredients. So we grow our own heritage grain and normal grain as well, malted on site. And then we use that along with other specialty malts to brew our own beers. We're growing our own hops. And sort of tied in with that, sort of 2 elements. One is that we do the kind of the farmhouse, growing our own grain and all that. And that's, I'm a farmer as well. So that's sort of one of my passions. But the other bit is that it ties in, is that we do creativity, basically. Well, try to anyway. Is basically doing seasonal beers and different beers and working off what's in season, using elderflowers, using rhubarb. We had rhubarb available, and I was like, well, let's put that into a beer, and just different stuff. And so kind of the ethos or the idea is that each beer is its own creation, and that's the way it is. And that's why each of the liminal is so I'm nearly shifting on to describing the beer. The liminal is a Flemish red. It's a beer we brew repeatedly, which is surprising because we don't actually brew continuously. But we put into different barrels. So each barrel has its own character. It's got its own yeast and Brettanomyces and all these other stuff, which the winemakers don't like, but we want that. We want to accentuate all the differences. So along with that, we then add different things to kind of push each one a little bit differently. So it's I'm interested to hear what you guys think of it actually as well.
Yeah, well, we'll get it going in the comments, see what people think here as it's coming in. This is my just poured it there, like absolutely stunning. It's perfect time of the evening to be having it as well. It's lovely tartness to it and kind of like cutting through what we've had on our palates previously. Super beer. Yeah, so I suppose we'll see what the comments are coming in, like how people are they're enjoying it.
We generate our own power as well, in case someone else asking.
I just saw that coming in.
Yeah. We're a wood-fired brewery, so I work as an engineer, and I do work as an engineer, but basically we built a wood-fired boil kettle. So people probably know wood-fired pizza, but you can also get wood-fired beer. So the wood-fired boil kettle, based off, we have our own woodlands at home, and we manage them with compass with standards, which is another rabbit hole we'll keep away from. Much more sustainable than Cairfeld Forestry. And we also have our own electricity from an Archimedes screw, which generates electricity from the river flowing through the farm. So high to low, take off the potential energy, make electricity, plug it into the grid, happy days. So real simple process, nothing complicated. That's how we do it.
Why doesn't everybody else do it?
Yeah. That was a lie, what I said. Yeah.
Would you be an advocate, or would you be going out to other breweries saying this is the way to do it?
As a business person, no, absolutely not. Am I an advocate? I'm saying yes. Because look, I worked in sustainability and I worked in sub-Saharan Africa, and it was like, we should be doing this at home. Do you know what I mean? So if I'm going to do, it's like growing our own grain, like being a farmer is a silly job. You know, you get paid nothing for what you do, right? Then becoming a maltster and making it into beer, like you're getting incrementally better along the way, but like still, like every brewer I talked to when we were starting up was just like, just buy the boat. What are you doing? You know, and they're right. You know what I mean? As in, and when they hear wood-fired boil kettle, they're like, just get some oil or gas. Like, what are you doing? I was like, yeah, but that's not sustainable. You know, and it is painful. It is really painful. And my brew days started at about 15 hours. I've gotten them down to maybe 12. You know, so I'm like, I'm going to get long at the tooth doing that basically. And I'm like, other people leave at like 5 or 6 o'clock. Like, what the hell? This is so. I got some improvements to make basically, but it Am I an advocate? Absolutely. And I'm an advocate for Irish malt, being a farmer, basically, vested interest. But like, why are we making Irish beer and saying, oh, Irish craft beer? Yeah, we use Weyermans from Germany and we use this other shit from fucking England, Mars Otter. You're like, no, man, we got our own heritage grain. We should be growing our own grains and getting it malted by like Craftsman's Malt or at Garrett or someone like that. You know, why are we, this is my rant, by the way, but like, why are we like, Minch Malt is, Minch Malt, that's our Irish maltster. No, that's owned by fucking InBev malting. Like, that's the largest malting company in the world. They don't give a sod about farmers. Like, so that's why I got into brewing. I make my own beer. I don't sell them all. Well, we do sell grain to Minch Malt as well. But like, the idea is to get away from that and make our own stuff so as we can make beer and sell it to other people.
Yeah. It's interesting you bring in the African angle, because I was my big impression from going to Africa is that they don't have the throwaway culture that we have, that everything is built to last, to be reused. You buy a bottle of beer and the glass is an inch thick because that has to go through a couple more.
And we do it in Europe, like Belgium, Germany. It's just like, yeah, that's worth 20 cents. Send it back. We recycle glass in Ireland, but we smash it and send it off somewhere else. On the continent, that glass gets siphoned off and checked and done all of that. So someday I would love to do that. And in debate of cans versus glass, if you were able to reuse the glass bottle, that is more sustainable than cans. But when you're shipping it to other people and it doesn't come back to you, then cans, to me, work basically.
Is there a possibility of introducing a reusable glass culture to Ireland? They've been talking about it in Scotland. I think Iron Brew are the only people who are still using reusable glass bottles.
Again, in a business sense, it probably doesn't make sense. Do you know what I mean? As in, like,
have you spoken to Coulon about this?
Not much, but like even like Coca-Cola like would reuse the glass bottles that you get in a pub. But like even what's really like that makes me sad basically is even in Africa they have a whole culture. Like Coca-Cola is really cheap over there because incomes are not big, so they produce it cheaply, right? And glass bottles recycled, and now they're bringing in cans and they're bringing in plastic packaging and they're getting rid of the bottles. And you're like, why? Like now there's more rubbish. Now you have to get rid of the cans and do something with it. And that it's just frustrating. Like I remember I was in Lake Malawi, which is a beautiful place. And ever gets the opportunity to go, I recommend. But like I remember snorkeling, like amazing. And I was like, I saw this can of Coca-Cola at the bottom. And I was just like, oh no, it's starting. And from a capitalist perspective, it makes sense, but not for the environment. And it's one of it's one of my passions basically, and it's not a clever choice maybe, but like it's one of the
it's frustrating when we've already made this mistake to see other people making it.
Yeah, exactly. And you're like, but like you have the whole system and infrastructure and everyone does it and it makes sense and it's but what's annoying about it is they're like, oh, it's real modern to have the throwaway can. And you're like, no, it's not good. But what you don't have is cool, and it's like, that's the thing. It's human nature,
Yeah.
But
my dad was 18 when Nitro Guinness and lounge bars came in. And this was new and exciting and interesting and space age. And he's amused that we go to the pub. He has a Nitro Guinness because that's proper Guinness, and I have a bottle because and that's what his grandfather drank, and that's his father drank, and that's old fashioned.
Oh, and proper old Guinness, like it's a negative word, but like proper old Guinness is great. And this is actually when we were talking about what temperature should you drink your beer. I love that there is still a culture in Ireland that if you go when a pub was open, if you go in and you ask for a pint bottle of Guinness, the barman says, from the fridge or the shelf? And he looks at you and like, it's like, shit, this is an important question. You're like, shelf, obviously. And he's like, okay. Because he would have like shook the head and been like, you're kidding me, right? And that's, I get it. Like when people say, what temperature should our beer be drunk at? And I'm like, I mean, you can cool it if you want to, but like if you want the taste of barrel and all the other subtleties, drink it at room temperature, and it's like To me, that comes down to consumption. If you want to consume lots of it, chill it down, suppress the flavors, and you drink it, and it's refreshing, and that has its place, right? Like, I'm in brewing. I like beer, but like at the same time, I just think for good beer, for great beer, it shouldn't be too cold that you can't taste it, you know. Yeah. And that's we are all can conditioned because, yeah, it's a pain and there is risk with it, which is annoying basically. But at the same time, that beer is alive, and those cans, they're can conditioned. They will continue to evolve, and like that. I'll talk a little bit about the beer. This liminal, it has been dry hopped. Now, would you call it a dry hop beer? No, because we've left it so much longer than that. But you do get biotransformation, and you have yeast in there acting on stuff. So you will get things evolving. And that to me is cool. You know, that you're buying a product. It's not just dead. It's not inanimate. It's something that'll evolve. And once you get to understand that, you can say, yeah, cool. When was that bottled? Will I leave it longer? You know, your valve thing. Will you leave it longer to see where it goes? Will you buy 2 of them? Drink one now, leave it time. Like, and that involves people. And that, to me, in terms of like capitalism and all that crap, basically, it's like we drink a lot of beer, like we're at a beer festival, but it's like the more that we think about what we're doing, the better. And that comes down to the package, and that comes down to like, okay, COVID, foreign holidays, we can't do it. But it's like nature is recovered. You know what I mean? Like, as in we are. So, like, should we think about that every time we do it? I would love if people were more conscious about it. And to me, Canvas Brewery, what's the idea of the name? I get to talk about why we shouldn't be traveling in a pandemic. But anyway, you know, that's the fun bit, right?
So was canning something that you were kind of forced into by the shape of the market, or did you?
A little bit, yeah, because we started selling online. We kind of do a subscription thing at something, and canvasbrewery.com. The problem with shipping bottles is that the courier drops them, right? And then you get this message back going, oh, your package is leaking. And you're like, yeah, probably because you dropped it. And then it comes back to you. And then people are like, hey, my beer. And then you've all of that, right? And they're heavy, right? Whereas cans, at least when they drop them, they deform a little bit, but they make it to the final destination.
So you wouldn't be on this call if you were still bottling, basically.
Probably not, no. yeah. Actually, yeah, because Liam's just there, no, kill the bottles. You know, because you have to double pack them, it's more packaging. And the other bit, for us within the brewery, you can fit more cans within the thing. We don't have any like forklifts and stuff, so I'm moving stuff. It's like, move a pallet of bottles. No, you can't. You need to get the tractor basically to move it. It's like a pallet of cans. You're like, oh, I can kick this, you know. Yeah. And then for the customer, you can crush it and it gets recycled into aluminum, you know. So like if the problem was that we do it all ourselves because it's only 250, so it's each barrel at a time. The mobile canners are like, you need 1,000 liters and it needs to be chilled down to 2 degrees. We never cold crash our beer. And it's also, the other one is they're like, any wild yeast? And you're like, oh yeah, we do spontaneous and this is Brett and a bit of, I think there's pedio in there as well, you know. So, and they're just like, no, you get away from us. So we do it all ourselves in house, manual. But basically, at that stage, the canning is probably not the most manual process that we do. But.
Right. Wow. So it's yourselves and Wide Street, I think, are in the same boat as the contract canners won't touch you, basically.
Yeah. And they're sensible to it. You know what I mean? As like when you're like, I do think I'm a little bit tapped sometimes. They're like, yeah, should I have all of this stuff? And you're like, you know, and the fake saisons with using the enzyme as opposed to diastatic yeast. And you're like, it's a macho, like, yeah, I use saison like diastatic yeast. And I'm like, but should I? What? You know, and like,
yeah. Well, the thing is, once you've done it once, it's there. So
yeah, that's so. Like, basically, I'm like, should I just go all like diastatic? And like, it's a thought I'm playing with. But like, even the liminal, this is a super dry beer. You know, this is 12 months in oak at least, and if not more. And
are we drinking a beer? I didn't even realize.
Well, I'm drinking.
Tell us about the beer, Morris.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Let's talk about philosophy and other crap, right? Sorry, the liminal, actually, the other, we might as well plug someone else. The liminal, the artwork, sorry. So the other bit about Canvas is we're trying to like, give space for artists as well. So Liminal is a guy that I know, and he does cool stuff. I love it. And his name is the Liminal Page, so we totally robbed his name for the beer. And Liminal, like the idea is that it's that in between space. So this is, I mean, it could have started life as a red or an amber, put it into a barrel. It's not a sourdough. It's like its pH is roughly around 4, depending on each barrel and each culture within the barrel. So it's not a sour beer. It's not a conventional red. So where is it? It's sitting in a liminal space between the two. What's cool about it is that I feed this to people unsuspecting who would definitely not consider themselves craft beer drinkers. And they're just like, oh, this lovely like cleanness and freshness. And you're like, yeah, you're loving the acidity there. It's like, you don't like a super sour beer, but a little bit of sourness is enjoyable. And that's something that we are programmed to like a little bit of it, and that's why beer is safe, is that little bit of acidity makes it safe from bad pathogens and stuff like that. So like that's the stuff that I really enjoy. The beer, yeah, it's a Flemish red basically is what we've gone with. In terms of styles, I would put in inverted commas, and I'm considering putting them beside our styles because it's its own thing. Do you know what I mean? It's like the Belgians don't put us, they don't go, I'm producing a Flemish red. They just go, here's a red beer. And
I think the Americans would say you have to have maize in a Flemish red. I take it you don't put, yeah.
I did use maize actually in a collaboration, which will be coming out, doing some historic beers, which is kind of fun because we're using heritage mold. So it's like, well, why not do historic recipe? And one of them's maize, and I'm just like, I'm not sure. It's the first time I've touched it, and I'm like, I do get the flavor, like, but you have to think back to these heritage malts have huge amount more flavor, and this comes back to modern agriculture. Modern agriculture is all about quantity, yield, little bit of quality, and it's like I asked like the department about it. It's like, have you ever thought about like flavor? And they were just like, no, never. You know, and you're like, okay, well, and that's where you go to these heritage malts, and they've got much more flavor. And we know it in Maris Otter, it's got more flavor. And it's like, we got these Irish varieties, and it's like when you think about the beer with these heritage grains, and then you add a little bit of maize to lighten it, you're like, oh, I get it, because they were probably trying to get what we have now, which is very bland bit more. You know what I mean? And you're like, that's that's the fun bit, and that's because we have a small brewery, we can rack out a new beer, and it's like, if it doesn't work, it's like, right, lost a day, but whatever. It's the pigs will be happy. So yeah, I'm not sure about maize, but I've tried it. You got to try some.
When you're brewing it, will you throw in a tiny bit of crystal malt as well and call it the crystal maize? Just for me.
Liam's probably already fucking trademarking that thing. Like, that's good.
Moss, there's a huge amount of love coming in for the message, sustainability in general, your passion, your ethos for the brewery, and the beers as well, of course. A lot of love for it. Really going down well.
And the beer is secondary. It's not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, I forgot we were here for beer for a while there. Thanks. Well, thanks.
Africa was probably a very good segue actually there. I quite enjoyed talking about Africa and what's going on there as part of a beer. An Irish craft beer chat, but you know, why not? We might as well enjoy things.
I was going to say thanks for the easiest 20 minutes of hosting I've ever had. I think I just like to sit here and just be happy drinking my beer. I turned into a punter. It was great. One question on the beer, Richie was asking, which I'm curious about as well. Richie from Hope said it's a really fantastic beer. There's a slight hop bitterness that makes it more interesting than a lot of Flemish reds. How is it fermented?
Fermented in a red wine oak barrel, Côte de Rhône, and we dry hopped it actually after 6 months, which was, so like I drink my beer flat, like I'm drinking it from the barrel, and like it had lovely dry hop aroma, and then that dissipated. So like in a way, some of that bitterness is gone, because too much bitterness up front, you're not going to get the good bugs to grow. So that's where I was kind of like, keep the bitterness low, let it age, and then dry hop it to give some of that other bitterness. But the fruity aromas have kind of gone, but then you get the barrel, you get that little bit of the tannic qualities as well. Like the oak, like I love oak barrels. They're just amazing. We've got more oak than stainless steel, basically. That's what. Again, it's not a good business decision because our beers take 6 to 12 months with an oak barrel. So yeah, but it's cool. So why not?
So does this count as mixed fermentation, or is that a really basic question?
Oh yeah, like it's yeah. No, as in we don't sterilize, like no, it's going into a barrel. The barrel is a home for the culture, and that's what the idea of the liminal is. That the first beer we put into an oak barrel, we put a liminal to get some of the wine character, but also kind of to develop the culture. And the first time you put it in, it'll take probably 12 months. The second time the culture builds, you could turn the barrel around in kind of 6 months, something like that. But then it's all about the barrel, which is why a big brewery, if you're producing 10,000 liters or 100,000 liters, you don't want to be putting it in each barrel, and each barrel is different. We can do it because, well, we're bottling or canning a barrel at a time. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? I'm just like, we just put the barrel number on. It's a slightly different beer, but like, just embrace it. You know, like each year is different. Each season is different. Like, do we get a summer? Do we not? You know what I mean? Is it a drought? Is it like wet? That's the beauty. The world we live in isn't consistent, you know? So there's big brewers out there that spend millions of euros to make sure everything is consistent and bland, and we are not one of them. That's our ethos, basically.
Boom.
Yeah.
Mic drop.
Yeah, perfect mic drop.
I'm going to go eat some food, lads. I haven't eaten yet.
Perfect time to wrap it up before Moss hijacks the night. Brendan, just a comment there from Brendan, which is a perfect one, I think. I'm just glad that Moss decided to take some time off and isn't dialing in from the tractor in the field, which I've seen you do before. And it's actually great to see you, because the last time you were on, we couldn't see you. So that's even better. Moss, absolute pleasure. I really I would recommend going back through the chat there, back through the comments, just to see all the love that was going on. And huge amount of respect for the message, ethos, beer, passion, everything. And people want to know where to get the jumper as well, so let people know where they can buy the jumper.
It's from a thrift shop, so it's a one-off basically, but we might do jumpers and stuff like that. And a big shout out to all the support, because without the support of customers, none of us would be able to do what we do. Do you know what I mean? So that's at the end of the day. It comes down to the support of people, and it comes down to the support of independence. And that's my big thing, is every time you purchase, you're keeping independence going. Otherwise, we'll end up with a bland world, and we don't want that. Right.
Oh, and before you go, well done on, is it Remoke or Remoke?
Remoke, yeah.
A beautiful beer. Everyone look out for that.
It's one of a kind, but yeah.
Make more.
Will do.
There you go. Perfect message to finish up on, especially Indie Beer Week and the night that's in it. Thanks a million, Moss, so much. I really appreciate it. That was amazing. And please stay on as well. Stay on for the chats and the beers in a bit.
After some food.
Okay, go get some food and then come back. Okay, now it is time. We're going to go over to Trouble. We're going to chat. I think we have Johnny on with us at the moment. Are you there, Johnny?
Yeah, how are you?
How's it going?
Hi, Johnny.
How are things?
How's the track? Good.
Good to see you.
You too. How are we all doing?
Yeah, good, thanks. We're coming on beer number 7 now, so we're doing pretty well, I think.
Grand, we're pretty jolly. That's probably going to make my life a lot easier.
Yeah, good time to have you on. Definitely, good time to feature. I suppose, Johnny, first of all, why don't you say a quick hello and introduce yourself, and then tell us a bit about Trouble as well, please.
Sure. So I'm Johnny. I'm one of the 2 brewers at Trouble. I've been brewing for a year and a half or so. I came in just as a home brewer and just kind of pestered the owner until he gave me a job, and then stuck around ever since. And I've kind of slowly eked out more and more work for myself, and now I'm kind of part of the furniture, which I'm very glad about. So Trouble is, I think we were maybe the 10th craft brewery in Ireland, something like that. Back in 2010, I think I started. We were like fairly early on, and we've kind of been petering along ever since. And yeah, I don't like, we're good lads, I suppose.
Yeah, I have met them. I'll vouch for you there, Johnny. Yeah, they're good lads.
But I'm fairly fresh. Most of the other team have been there much longer than me. I'm kind of the new face on the block in Trouble, I suppose.
So have you inherited the recipes, or have you done much for yourself?
I've just started doing recipe formations the last couple of months, so I'm hoping that my first original will be out in a month or 2 is the hope, and then a few more coming after that.
Cool.
But as of yet, I've just been doing the kind of the existing stuff. And the other brewer, Eugene, who's been with us for years, he's still there as well. So he's still doing all his original brain trust ideas.
Yeah, that's cool. Trouble has been a very good incubator of clever brewers. There's lots of people who have cut their teeth there and have moved on to doing bigger and better things. And I think that it's a great sort of incubator brewery for Irish.
Yeah,
brewing
we're
talent.
a bit of an academy. I think a lot of our brewers are kind of spread across the island.
But at the same time, they've managed to keep lots of classic beers, and I mean, one of them is Vietnam, which it was brewed for PMAX exclusively until the pandemic came along, and then we got canned versions of it. And then the beer that we have in front of us now is Bomb Track, which I am assuming has Vietnam somewhere in its ancestry. Given the name.
It's very much, I suppose, the Vietnam's big brother, Vietnam's big cousin. And I think originally, the original recipe for Bomb Track is really old. I mean, it must be 8-9 years ago. I think it was Dave Guilfoyle, I think, who originally did it. He was up in Dundalk now. And I think it was only once off. It was like a 100 litre or 50 litre release. Like it was like 2 kegs, I think, at the time. And it's kind of been in the vault. And then we were kind of looking for something to play around with then a few months ago, and we kind of dug it out of the lower drawer in Stephen's back office, and said, Jesus, that was quite nice. Maybe we'll try that again. And so I think it kind of started off as kind of like an imperial Vietnam was the kind of idea.
Right, yeah.
It's kind of going
So talk us through, I mean, like West Coast IPA is kind of almost a novelty at this stage. It went resolutely out of fashion. So what hops are you using?
So the Bomb Track is Euconaut, Cascade, Amarillo, Mosaic, and Simcoe.
All American.
Yeah, all American, all West Coast, all fairly classic. It's got, again, as you're saying, kind of out of style at the minute, comparison to the East Coast stuff, which is even what we ourselves kind of do more, and probably more associated with ambush and things like that these days. So it's kind of flipped that on its head. I mean, there is a dry hop in this, but it's pretty small. It's more about all that those bittering and boil hops. We try and kind of like front load it in, and then just give it a little bit of caramel rye malt, just to kind of give it a little bit of chew and a little bit of spiciness.
Yeah, there was something I couldn't figure out. It's the rye. Yeah, there's definitely a spicy twist in there. Yeah, which
I think when you've got like a big bitter beer with a good IBU and a good boil hop, I think it's good to have kind of a bit of something in the body, just to give it a bit of structure and a bit of support, and not just have it be kind of too top heavy.
Yeah.
So I think that's why obviously it's like it's got a little bit of darkness as well about it, which is just that kind of nice kind of deep copper color.
Yeah.
I really like to see on West Coast.
Amazing. Wayne picked up on it there. He was asking, is there rye in here? Bloody lovely. Good stuff. I believe, Johnny, is this the first pour of this beer?
Yeah, I mean, for about 8 or 9 years.
Yeah, it was on draft in PMAX, I think, briefly.
Yeah, okay. I think it really was 2 kegs worth. I think it was a tiny on our little pilot kit. So this is first. I wouldn't say first pour, because I have had a few the other week when we canned it. But first commercial pour, I think we can christen it as.
Fair enough. I gotta ask: is it someone in Trouble, or is it someone in PMAX who's the massive Rage Against the Machine fan?
If memory serves me, I think credit has to go to Macker, who owns PMAX and Blackbird. I think he was the one that originally suggested the name Vietnam. I'm pretty sure he's told me that anyway. So I'll take Macker's word for it.
Nice. I'll ask. I'll throw it out there, see how people are getting on with this. I can see lovely comments coming in. How are you doing with it there, John?
I think it's brilliant. I mean, I'm fully behind the West Coast revival. I love that just sharp bitterness. I think the the hops alone are beautiful, and then just adding the rye into it for that peppery twist is beautiful. I will fully put my head above the parapet and say this is up there with Kinniger's Rust Bucket in the rye IPA stakes, in just that satisfaction that you get from drinking it. I think it's excellent. I've been dying to try this. I remember seeing that it existed in PMAX and never getting in to actually try it. So it's one of the things that I'm eternally grateful for COVID-19 for, is that all of these beers are starting to come out in cans and I can just pop out and buy them. But this is where, I mean, I don't think Trouble has anything in its core range that's at that 6.9% super bitter IPA. Like, it's the anti-ambush. I think in the interests of balance, it would be worth putting this in the core range next to Ambush as well. You know, if you like this, you'll also like this. It's completely different, but
yeah. I totally agree with you that. Like first getting into craft beer, obviously, was all about West Coast kind of back in the day, and that's what I kind of cut my teeth on. And as much as I love East Coast IPAs, and I really do, and I work for Trouble, so I have to say that. But, yeah, I'd love to have kind of something. I love just something that's punchy and bitter and sharp, and acidic, and it's just got that cut to it.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah. Yeah. Everyone's loving it here in the comments. Thomas was saying, "Let's not be silly now, John. Comparing it to Rust Bucket."
I've got a lot of affection for Rust Bucket. I really do.
I think Thomas has done I think the technical phrase is taken the soup.
Yeah, that's it. Johnny Thomas is now gainfully employed by Kinniger, so yeah, he's contractually obliged to say that, but he'd say it anyway, even if he wasn't. Yeah, Wayne's saying this is a bigger beast than Rust Bucket, but loving it. Rust Bucket comparison is a huge statement. Wow, okay, that was controversial, John.
There you go.
Yeah.
Keep them coming.
You said it was going to be, in fairness. Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Johnny, absolutely, yeah, fantastic beer. Obviously, going down very, very well. Yourselves at Trouble, you've been bringing out quite a few new beers lately. Kind of IPAs coming down the line, to like the Go-Go, Pozo, all the recent ones. What are the reactions to those been like?
Pretty good, we think, by and large. Because we did DD and Go-Go, and then Pozo and Lucky, and kind of the last like 3 or 4 months, and we've been trying to they were all kind of variations on like a similar core recipe with kind of different twists, and we're trying to kind of like work out like what was working, what wasn't working, and it's been going pretty well. And we're hoping that Lucky, which is going to end up being the kind of culmination of what we hope to be the best parts of all of them so far, is going to maybe come in as a core beer for the next little while, and we're going to try and run that kind of permanently or semi-permanently anyway in with the core range. So good, we think. Well, we think anyway, we hope.
You're muted, John. Oh, it's our first one of the night, I think. Amazing.
I didn't press mute. I don't know how I ended up on mute. Is there any room for dark beers in the Trouble portfolio these days?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. We've only got Dark Arts, Dashway and Voodoo are the only ones that we do regularly. But I can say, although I'm not really supposed to, but we've got 2 strong dark beers coming out in the summer, hopefully, and that are going to be part of a collab we're doing, and that I'm really, really, really looking forward to doing. And they're going to be fun. They're going to be hopefully big dark boys.
Cool.
Nice. We're not recording here or anything, so you can tell us. Like, we won't tell anyone.
Well, we're hoping to do it's a collab with Harry's Nut Butter. If you know them, the kind of craft peanut butter producer. And we're hoping to do kind of 2 nut butter imperial stouts or dark beers over the next few months. Still in development, and we're still doing pilot kit recipes and stuff, so we'll hopefully try and kind of figure that one out.
Okay, amazing, interesting. Some are big, dark, some are peanut butter beers. I love it. Fantastic. So I know yourselves from previous chats that like a lot of your business was kind of mostly in keg. Obviously the last year has been ridiculously difficult for everyone, but how have you transitioned? Like I see obviously your beers have been going to small pack, and you've recently invested in a new canning line, I think.
Yeah. I mean, certainly before the pandemic, I think we were 90% of our sales were draft. So obviously we were like essentially totally reliant. Which certainly had a bit of that changeover period. The first 6 months or so of the pandemic was definitely our toughest. As we're trying to like transition as much as possible over to off license sales. But now the canning machine arrived, I think 3 weeks ago, and we were all very, very, very excited. We've been waiting for it for months, and we had 2 days of constructing it in the brewery and playing with it and figuring out which buttons do which things. And we're kind of down on it now, but it's still a bit. It's very much our new toy, and we enjoy it immensely. So, and the hope is now that we can can ourselves, gives us our flexibility, and that's what we want to try and start doing more small batch beers and try and have a bit more variation. Try to like hopefully crank out a very steady stream of stuff that we can just can ourselves when we want to, how we want to, small batches if we want to. You know, like I think your man from Canada was saying earlier there that at least 1,000 litres for the mobile canners to touch it. This gives us the flexibility. If we want to do a 500 litre batch, we can do this now. And that just kind of gives you a lot more room to play around with, which as a brewer is what you want, really.
I because I'm one of the old men, I remember Trouble being the brewery that used to send all of its beer over to England to be bottled. And just, hearing that you can do small batch canning runs is just, heartwarming, I think is the word.
Yeah, certainly it's come a long way from those days. Thank God. No, we don't bottle any of our beer in England anymore. Don't worry about that.
This is a really, really tricky and probably horrible question for me to ask you, but I'll ask it anyway, Johnny. Sorry. So you've invested in the canning line now, and then obviously, as you said before, like 90% of your sales went to keg. When, let's say, hospitality opens back up, where do you see that split going? Or would you see more going into small pack than beforehand? Or
I think certainly putting more in small pack than we did before the pandemic. Certainly, I mean, the canning machine is going to be a huge part of that. But I suppose we still want to try and keep. I think really what we want to do is we want to try and up our capacity in total. In an ideal world, we'd love to keep the small pack volume that we're doing now and go back to our pre-pandemic kegging volumes. That would be the ideal. Now, how practical and workable that's going to be in reality is a different matter. There's all sorts of troubles, from keeping shelf space and off licenses, keeping tap lines in pubs, down to the fact that we only have 2 brewers and 1 kit. And you're even just running into like logistical problems there of like, can me and UG physically brew that much beer? Questionable. So, but I think probably the ideal scenario we're probably looking to go half. I think is where we like see that going forward, and probably from a business model point of view, that's the most sustainable and gives the nicest balance of quick turnaround and high profitability with the draft beer, and then giving you kind of room to experiment and maybe more guaranteed sales and stuff like that with the canned beer.
Okay, yeah, brilliant. That'd be great to see. Perfect balance, hopefully. It's great in theory. Hopefully it happens. Yeah, it'll be fantastic to see. Absolutely brilliant. Just keep brewing 24 hours a day, Johnny, and you'll be fine.
I'm sure that's Stephen's plan for me. Yeah. I might have something to say about that, but we'll see.
Yeah. John, how are you getting on with it over there?
Yeah, I know. I'm hugely enjoying this one. That's why I've been so quiet. But no, I love the big body bitter hops. The roundedness, the fruitiness. No, it's the complete package. It still tastes like a special edition one-off. Like if you were a PMax customer, if you were a Vietnam drinker and you went in one day and they had this on, you'd just be praise be to Dave. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. A question there from Vaughn, Johnny, asking, what hops did you say you used in this?
So the hops are Euconaut, Cascade, Amarillo, Mosaic, and Simcoe.
Okay, so all the hops. Love it.
All the hops. Yeah.
Yeah.
So why
Fantastic.
didn't you mention Yukonot on the can?
Did we not? Oh, I think that's because you see, I do the brewing, but Stephen is in charge of the labelling in the cans. So you'll have to ask him about that.
Who made
I
that
put it in
decision?
the beer. He didn't put it on the can.
You cannot allowed. That's why. Okay, that's probably the worst one of the evening. Sorry, folks. Johnny, yeah, I'm keeping one eye on the clock here. I'm thinking that was absolutely fantastic. The beer has gone down an absolute treat. And people have been surprisingly quiet in the chat as well. So I'm wondering if they're like John, they're just like sitting back and like admiring the beer, or if we've gotten to that stage of the evening where we've lost them. there's too many.
Let's fill them full of double IPA and see what happens next.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's time to crack open our double IPAs. So so let me see now. I think we have Darren with us. I'm going to say hello, Darren. How are you doing?
Good, Brian. Yourself, man?
Yeah, how are you getting on? Good to see you.
I'm getting on well. I'm getting a bit toasty. I'm just, it's Friday. It's been a long week. We're having a nice couple of beers, and it's good. The beers have been excellent. I mean, Wicklow was great. Canvas was great. Trouble was really good as well. So I'm enjoying it. Yeah, and I'm just going to pour myself a drop of double IPA as well, because I want to see how it is. This beer is only about a week old, so let's see how it's going.
Yeah, absolutely. Another somewhat exclusive first pour. We'll say we'll clutch onto that. We'll say, folks, now's your time. Grab your golden ticket. Pineapple double IPA. Crack it open, pour it, get it in the glass, become acquainted to it.
Raise your hand if you've won.
Well, I haven't actually peeled my label yet.
No, I did.
Peel it back, Brian.
What worried me is that it doesn't say on the can what the prize is. So I don't know. Maybe we should find out what that is before claiming it.
Well, I think we said we'd give a year's supply of beer now with terms and conditions apply. So I mean, if you own a bar, we're not going to stock your bar for free for a year, right? But I mean, I think we'll send beer every month for 12 months to you, so it's a nice prize. I'm going to peel mine back as well, because I hope mine doesn't say one. That'd be fairly embarrassing. But
Darren wins this.
Sorry, you've not found a golden ticket, but visit blacksbrewery.com for a small win and a discount code. Okay, so that's cool. I mean, there's a little win, but there was definitely a ticket in the beers which were bought from Beer Cloud. So somebody on today, I'm a winner. There we go. Look, Patrick H just popped up there. So congrats to Patrick, whoever you are. Fair play to you.
Can we verify this? Or are we just going to say everyone's a winner? Is it going to be like that?
Patrick H, turn on your camera, Patrick H.
Patrick, yeah.
There's a small win for everybody, but a big win. Well, fair play to you. Yeah, we need to see the evidence. That's true. Put your label up to the camera there, Patrick H.
Oh, Patrick. I think Patrick has won, yeah. Okay, right. Hang on. What
We've got to verify the win.
Is.
Give us a look. Go on. Do it again.
Do it again.
We didn't quite see it.
Do it again, Patrick.
Go on. What does it say there?
No.
Lower a bit. Lower a bit. Congratulations. I think it says at the top, is it? Yeah. Okay. You're fair play to you. You're the winner.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh, magic, man.
Amazing.
Fantastic.
Congrats, Patrick.
There should be some instruction on the can on how you can claim your prize there, so you can redeem it through the website. And look, if you can shoot me a mail, Darren@blacksbrewery.com, and we'll sort you out, man. Delighted.
The system works.
That's absolutely brilliant. Yeah, thrilled for you, Patrick. That's class. You buy a beer and a tour of the brewery, I believe. Yeah, so
VIP tour.
VIP tour.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll have you down and we'll show you around the brewery. You get a chance to drink some beers and maybe a drop of whiskey as well, if all going well. And yeah, it'd be great. Now, obviously post-COVID, so we have to organise all that. But yeah, it'd be great. And it's a fantastic prize. Congrats.
Brilliant, yeah. And I'm just going to say, I'd like to request my €50 bribe back from Liam Tutty, that I didn't get it. But we'll figure that out later.
Yeah. It's something that I think will not work in shops, because if anyone like me, they'll just be peeling off the the labels on the shelves while the staff aren't looking.
Well, I suppose it could happen. I'm not going to comment on that. You know, if people decide that's what they want to do, I suppose that's what they're going to do. But I think it's a great beer, and it's been a fun promotion. So, you know, we're trying to, I suppose, just get a bit of fun into the beer, and people should enjoy it.
Yeah,
so
if everyone else is an off-license owner, you'll know what's happened.
Yeah. I believe that there's another 4 of them out there, isn't there, Darren?
Yeah, we did 5 in total. So I mean, we said we'd send one for Indie Beer Week. This beer was brewed anyway for Indie Beer Week, and so we'd send one to the Beer Cloud. So there's 4 out in the wild. So if you haven't one today, there's always a second chance. Go and pick one up somewhere in your local independent off license and see what happens. You know.
Amazing. Look, we got so swept up in the golden ticket itself. We didn't even have an introduction to yourself, Darren, or an introduction to Blacks. So why don't you give us a bit of both, please?
Yeah, cool. Darren Murphy. I work for Blacks Brewery and Distillery in Kinsale. I'm there about 3 years with the guys now, and it's a family-owned business owned by Maud and Sam Black, established in 2013. So the guys are fantastic to work for. It's really good organization, really human, I suppose, place to go to work. You know, it's you're passionate about beer and passionate about the drinks industry. It's awesome to go and work in Blacks, and the team are great, and I think we're producing, my humble opinion, great beers. Ronan and the guys are producing really, really good beers, and we're moving into whiskey production now. We've started producing whiskey, and we've been producing gin and bits and bobs for the last couple of years. We had the first Irish rum ever, for example, as well. So we're kind of doing beers and spirits as well. And it's great. Me personally, I'm beer sommelier. Did my training in Vienna in Austria. I suppose I got into beer in a serious way when I went to Austria the first time, 2002. I worked in a place called 1516 Brewing Company in the middle of Austria there, a micro brew pub. And I think the first IPA I ever drank was over there, which was a Victory Hop Devil. If any of you have tried it, that was a while back, and I remember thinking, wow, this is amazing. The bitterness was off the scale at the time. It was something that I wasn't used to drinking, and then I really acquired a taste for it. And I suppose I grew a love for beer. I'm back in Ireland and I'm working in the beer business, and I'm loving what I do. It's a passion, you know. So it's great to be involved.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant.
That's a weird thing. 1516 has this relationship with Victory in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, it is weird, John, in a way. I suppose, like the 1516 thing, I suppose, how do I explain that? They use the number. Vienna's a pretty international city, right? So there's a lot of people from all over the world. So they wanted to use numbers as opposed to as German language or English language or whatever else, or Chinese language, so people could come. So numbers were pretty universal. So that was the idea about, I suppose, inclusivity. But from the purity law and an IPA, that doesn't really match, right? So I get that, right? But I suppose originally they would have been brewing like lagers and pilsners and wheat beers and stuff. And then the innovation, that for them, it was in the 2000s, early 2000s. IPA became a big thing, and they were like, okay, we're just going to have to embrace this thing, and we're not going to change our name. So that's kind of what happened. But it was a great place to drink beer and to work. And
it's the only reason I have ever missed a flight in my life was because I wanted one more beer in 1516.
Get out! Okay, so you know the joint.
One more night in Vienna.
It's a good boozer. If you haven't been there to the rest of the guys on the Zoom today, it's a fantastic place. There's a nice bunch of Irish lads working in there as well, and they're great beer and great food and great.
Vienna is just a great beer city generally.
It is, absolutely is. If you're into beer and get to Vienna and get down to Bratislava, it's not far, or even Prague isn't far as well. So you can do a nice beer tour around kind of Central Europe there. It's fantastic. You can get a bit of traditional, and you can get the new stuff too, the new innovative styles. So yeah. I've had long nights there as well, John. I know exactly what you're talking about. No, that was a few years ago, Mike. Yeah. So, and this beer, anyway, I suppose I'll rein it back into this one. I'm getting a bit giddy now because we've had a few. Double IPA, obviously, it's 8.2 ABV, so it's up there. Hop wise, I mean, the guys, I think Ronan said he really went all out on this one. So we've got Cascade, Citra, Mosaic, Eldorado, Azacca, and so there's a whole host of hops in there. And I suppose we're the aim of the beer was to produce a really balanced high ABV beer. It should sing of pineapple, obviously, and well, I'm going to have a little nose again. I think you're talking like a lot of candied fruit there going on. I think apricot jam and stuff like that. It's a big beer, but I think they've really struck the balance. So it's a really great one, and obviously the marketing aspect with the golden ticket is cool as well.
Pineapples are something of a Black's theme. It's like your third or fourth pineapple.
Yeah,
beer.
yeah. We did a Pineapple Express, which was kind of pineapple / dank weedy notes. Let's put it like that. And we've done a few tropical things. Yeah, I suppose, you know, the climate down in Cork is pretty warm, and the pineapples we harvest locally, you know.
Right, yeah.
We're using those. No, but all joking aside, yeah, I guess, you know, Sam likes pineapple, Sam Black for sure. And we just thought there's a bit of a trend into fruity beers, and we felt pineapple was really attractive. So there's a little bit of marketing going on there as well, trying to infuse pineapple and tropical fruit flavors and get the best out of the American hops, I suppose, as well. You know? So.
You've been doing the terpene sort of weedy things of late, and this isn't sort of attached to that. Is it in that bloodline, even though it's not?
So weedy not, but terpene yes. So okay. I mean, it's supposed to make a distinction. Like we use some of the cannabis terpenes for example in the Pineapple Express. So, and I suppose I suppose to explain a little bit, the terpenes are really just the aroma. It's just the aroma and flavor from it. So there's no THC. It's not going to make it trippy or high or anything like that. But it does give the danky kind of weediness to that beer. From this perspective, yeah, there's a little bit of pineapple from the terpene in there. But to be honest, I drank this beer out of the tank, and it was already super pineapple-y. I guess I drank it out of the tank about 2 weeks ago. It was already super pineapple-y. And we just wanted to give it that, you know, extra oomph, I suppose. So there's a very, very, very small amount of pineapple terpene in there. It's about getting the balance right. You don't want it to be, you don't want it to be too much. So it's just to give it a little oomph. And I think you know the balance is really good in this one. I'm really happy with it. You know.
Yeah, it's super stuff. I'm seriously enjoying it here. Loads of lovely comments coming in as well, as per usual.
Go on, Brian. Tell me the comments there. Tell me what's going on
there. What is it? Simon here saying it's like pineapple sweets.
That's good.
A lot of love for
That's
Vienna.
Nice.
I saw this is a beautiful beer. This is a lovely beer. I'm getting, Richard said this is lovely. I'm getting some aniseed notes, and I get the exact same. But I think I'm super sensitive to Azaka. I always get like a lot of aniseed off Azaka, and as soon as you said it was in there, I was like, oh yeah, there it is. That's it.
I mean, I think the aniseed note and this kind of sweet, I suppose, tropical fruit note is actually it's a nice combination. You know, works pretty well. I mean, the aniseed thing. I love aniseed. It's a thing I'm into. And I suppose there's just on the little bitter part, touching on the aniseed, and then the balance into the sweet fruit. That's kind of how I see it in my mind, anyway. But I'm interested to hear what people's comments are about that. Tastes like Sambuca now. Okay.
Sambuca, yes. Well, I was thinking fennel root, that sort of end of aniseed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we're talking about I suppose pairing. If you're talking fennel root, I'd love to try it with some kind of full-bodied fish. That'd be really nice. So I don't know, some oily fish, maybe trout, salmon, something like that.
Yeah.
Get a couple of these. Well, yeah, have a couple of these. See how it goes with it. Yeah, I think it'd be really, really good.
Yeah, I'll get a lighter and see. Said James about the Sambuca.
Guys, I could tell you a few party tricks back in the day with Sambuca, and but anyway, I think we're talking about craft beer today. I think so. Yeah, you know.
Yeah. Well. Actually, speaking of spirits, I had a question back there asking about the whiskey, Black's whiskey. So, when is it available?
Yeah, I mean, we started distilling our own whiskey. Well, our own spirit last year. It's not quite whiskey yet. So we have a couple of more years before it'll be Irish whiskey. Now we do have a couple of whiskey brands out there, but look, they're sourced whiskies, you know, and we're trying to source the best stuff we can get from different distilleries. So our own stuff is a couple of years away. yet. But I suppose the interesting angle for us, or at least what I feel anyhow, is that because we have the brewery as well, I think it was mentioned back along with Wicklow and that, because we have the brewery, we can do a whole load of stuff regarding whiskey finished in different beer barrels, beer finished in whiskey barrels. So we have the synergy, which we can do pretty naturally, I suppose. So that's really exciting. So for example, if you said you're a big fan of X beer from Blacks, we could do a pot still or a single malt that would be finished in a beer barrel that was seasoned in, I don't know, let's call it, the Golden Ticket, or it could be Pineapple Express or whatever else. So there's a lot of opportunity there, which is really, really cool. But anyway, I'm blabbing on. To answer the question, our own spirit will be a couple of years down the line. Maybe, so what are we in, 2021? So 2023, something like that, around there, Hopefully we'll have the inaugural releases around there.
Okay, fantastic. Sounds brilliant. Just to add to the comments that you were asking about, James just said stonking good double IPA. So
thanks, James.
That's,
yeah, nice bit of feedback.
Yeah,
that's all. It's always good to get the feedback on the beers. I mean, this one was put into can about a week ago, so it's super fresh. So I hopefully it's singing. It really should be. I think the guys did a great job on the beer, and again, congrats to the winner, man. I'm really stoked about the win. It's fantastic.
These things never work. Normally, when you read out the raffle ticket, the person is never there.
That was the big fear, to be honest. We were like, I hope the person is going to be on.
it is, and we ordered from Beer Cloud the whole selection of beers, whatever. And I went for a run earlier on. I was like, geez, maybe I got it. I hope I didn't get it. So because it'd be like fix sticks. The guy from the brewery won the, but I didn't get it anyway. Thank God I didn't get it. But it's all good.
Yeah. I was the same. I hadn't actually checked mine, and I'm absolutely delighted Patrick won it. Fantastic, brilliant to see. But it also took away. I never even got to peel mine. I took a little bit away from it. Get that thrill of actually peeling
Brian.
it. I was like half peeling.
Sorry, Brian.
I was half peeling. I was like, I won.
Well, you've got 4 more opportunities. There's 4 more tickets out there, Brian, right? So you can get them.
That's it.
And then we did it. We did a night. I'm gonna make a little plug now, right? So we've done a nice little I suppose deal for Indie Beer Week. So on the web shop from Blacks, they're Indie Beer 15. There's a nice discount code for 15% off. So if you like the beer and you haven't won, you can pop on. And you can buy some beers online there, and there's a chance to win again. So try your luck. You never know.
Wow. Amazing. Yeah, absolutely amazing. And just to add to that, Wayne said, I thoroughly recommend signing up to your mailing list because you regularly have unreal deals. So well worth doing.
Yeah.
What was the code?
Indie Beer 15. So Indie Beer and then 15.
Okay, there we go.
So
it's in there.
So there's some nice.
Oh yeah.
You can buy the Golden Ticket double IPA, get 50% off, and it's nice for just for the people who are on today, obviously, and it'll run for the weekend. So you have a couple of days to grab a few beers there if you like it, and a chance to win again. And if not, it'll be in good independent off licenses around the country, so you can pick it up there as well. We'll spread the tickets around. So Willy Wonka will give you a chance to win another year supply of beer.
Fantastic.
Thanks, Darren.
Yeah, brilliant.
Pleasure, absolutely.
I was going to say just before we finish up, Darren, what's coming down the line, kind of short term for Blacks?
Coming down the line, I suppose bottling next week will be Black IPA fresh. So if it's around, grab your bottles of Black IPA. After that, we'll be canning 330ml cans. Right now, we're canning KPA, Ace of Haze, which has been a real revelation for us. The Wild Atlantic West Coast IPA and Session IPA. So there'll be 330ml cans getting canned in the next couple of weeks. So they'll be all spanking fresh. And also, I suppose we'll be starting the keg again, hopefully in June. So we've really missed, the keg business, I suppose, and not just a business, but getting into the pubs and meeting the people and the whole side of things. And that's why platforms like this are great, because you get to have a chat and shoot a breeze, because it's fantastic putting beer in cans and it goes out to the offies and guys pick them up and there is a bit of interaction. But what I personally love anyway is getting out to the pubs, talking to people. They drink the beer on draft, whether it's KPA or Ace of Haze or whatever else, and shooting the breeze. So we'll be kegging 330ml cans, and there'll be more 440 specials coming down the line through the summer. That hasn't been exactly, I suppose, confirmed yet what we're going to be doing, but there'll be loads of innovative IPA styles like always. We've a load of IPA. What would I say? Saint-Tropez is out there right now. That's really one of my favorites in the 440 cans. If you see it, pick it up. Yeah, that's kind of what's going on with us.
Yeah, amazing. I think actually the beer festival last summer, the very first Ace of Haze was in that our virtual beer festival.
It was. It absolutely was.
That went down an absolute storm.
Yeah,
there was huge reaction to that. It was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Great beer, and I mean, I have to say great beer, but it's one that we really, I suppose, I know the brewing team put their heart and soul into it to make it as really as best they could. And it's got better and better, I feel. So if you see a 330ml can of it out there anywhere in the wild, grab it, because I had one before earlier on, first beer tonight. It's drinking great. It's really good stuff. So yeah.
Brilliant stuff. Absolutely brilliant. And I think we'll be chatting tomorrow as well, will we?
I'm on again for another beer tomorrow. But that's a secret as well. It's not secret. It's great. We'll be drinking a sessionable beer tomorrow. Blacks is pretty well known for the sessionable stuff. So I'm on again tomorrow. So I'll see a whole host of people tomorrow. But anyway, I'll have more stories tomorrow. No worries.
Yeah. Come back fresh. Darren, absolute pleasure as always. Thank you so much. Absolute gentleman, and that was brilliant. Super beer. Blacks are obviously making incredible beers, which are just fantastic. But the golden ticket was just a phenomenal idea, super prize, and absolutely delighted for Patrick for winning it this evening too. So yeah, fantastic stuff. Congrats, Patrick. Thanks, Brian, for having me on. And yeah, thanks guys for supporting Blacks, because it is really all about the support from the beer drinking community. So cheers guys, and I'm going to hang on and drink my beer and have a bit of fun. So yeah, cheers lads. Yeah, brilliant. Patrick just said, I just noticed I was muted when I gave my acceptance speech. Thanks Darren and everyone at Blacks. Patrick, I was asking you to mute. But yeah, no, fantastic. Absolutely delighted with you. That's brilliant. Super prize. Okay, now we're going into our dark beers / leash massive part of the evening. So we've got Ballykilcavan and 12 Acres coming up. So we're going to kick off first with Ballykilcavan. I'm going to bring in Joe here, and now is your cue to grab your Bambrick's Brown Ale if you haven't already done so. Hello Joe, are you with us? Hello, how are you doing?
Coming in, yeah.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah.
Hey everyone.
It's been a while. Was it 5 days, 6 days, or maybe 5 actually since St. Mel's thing? Probably early hours of Sunday morning. Yeah. Anyway, absolute pleasure. Great to see you. I'm going to grab my Bambricks off the shelf. It's across from me at the moment. While I'm doing that, Joe, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a bit about Ballykilcavan as well, please?
All right. I'm Joe. I'm the head brewer at Ballykilcavan. We're based in Laois on a 13th generation family farm. I had the privilege of taking over the brewing there this year from Nigel, who was running the ship up to March this year, and he's retired, and he's gone on to look after his boat in Kilkenny. So I'm steering the Ballykilcavan ship now. So basically, the story is that David, who is the owner and is a 13th generation farmer who took over the farm about 10-15 years ago from his dad, and kind of, I'd say, from talking to David, he really wanted to innovate and make sure that he had something to give to his kids, and make sure that obviously the 13th generation wasn't the last generation. And I think that's the big weight that's on every one of their generation shoulders, is that they can just hand it over to the next guys and go, here, now do what you need to do with it. So him and Lisa, his wife, have done some absolutely amazing things. Even in the 3 years I've been there, the amount of work that they've done on site in terms of the brewery building, the yard that we're in, the visitor centre that's coming up, and just the forward thinking that he's brought to and he's always enthusiastic and open to ideas, which is good because I come up with some mad ideas, and he generally doesn't say no to me. The ethos of the of David's idea was to have a field to glass kind of project where he would grow his own barley. He had a bit of an interest in where his barley went when he was growing it, because we're primarily a malt barley farm. And when he discovered that he couldn't really find out what happened to the barley once it went to the masters, he kind of got interested in kind of going, well, I'd like kind of have a single origin kind of a story here, and he really thought that his malt could stand out and could stand up to other beers. And the bottle range is his baby, where basically 100% of the Ballykilcavan malt that is in the bottle range is Ballykilcavan. It's the well water is at least it's 5 meters from the fermenters, and I can see the barley growing at the moment from our back door. And then the can range and the Clancy can range is kind of my side projects. We buy in some specialty malts for the can range, and we're also doing some micro malting with our own malts, so that in future we can kind of bring the can range in house as well, so it'll still be all in house as well. But yeah, it's a really good project, and I'm really privileged to be part of it from right at the start as well. Yeah, fantastic! Like it's absolutely incredible. It's amazing. Brilliant story. Like the whole kind of story behind the brewery, the ethos of it. Similar to what Moss was saying earlier, actually, with Canvas, yourselves, and also 12 Acres coming up next. Brilliant. You're growing your own barley, and you know exactly what's going off to the maltsters coming back and brewing beer with it. It's absolutely fantastic to see. Really is.
Does Irish microbrewing have anything to fear from the resurgence in Irish whiskey in terms of local barley competition?
No, because we're seeing it, like, because we've been commissioned to grow distilling barley for Waterford distilling. So like and the kind of a bit of a resurgence in whiskey and stuff like that will help as well, I suppose, because it's kind of champion what we do. We're really good at growing barley, and I think there's interest as well in some heritage malts coming back as well. So we're going to hopefully do a heritage beer. There's like you go looking and searching online. There's the amount of old breweries that are around. There's quite a few niche breweries that are knocking around that we want to try and replicate some beers from, hopefully going forward. Maybe get the legals out of the way first, make sure we don't get sued. But we've done a few pilots with some heritage malts, and they're a little bit more tricky to deal with than the more modified modern malts. But we'll get there, yeah. So, a basic noob question: is the barley that's grown for beer completely different to the barley that's grown for whiskey? The distiller's just one. They need the protein level, so like Darren will tell you as well, they're just looking for pure kind of alcohol, as much as they can get out of it. So they're looking for a different spec in terms of what we get. And then the problem as well with the whiskey, or with the general malts that's grown in Ireland, is kind of dictated by Diageo and what we can grow. So they grow a species of malt that Diageo want for their beer. And it's basically our Irish pale malt is pretty much like Magnolia paint. It's just there as the backbone. And what's interesting is there's little groups everywhere growing little kind of heritage malts here and there, and they're a little bit different and they're harder to deal with, but they give that little different flavors as well. Like so.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, that's cool.
Brilliant. Banbriggs, Joe. Tell us about it. What are we dealing with here? I think this is my first time trying this beer.
Oh, really?
Which is yeah.
So, this is the first ever brown ale that I ever brewed, and I was put under fierce pressure for a number of years by my lovely wife to actually brew a brown ale, because they were very underrepresented in the Irish market, and I gave in, and as actually was funny on last week with St. Mel's, because I think we're the only us in St. Mel's, and I think White River do one for Lidl as well. We're kind of the only three that really do a brown ale. So it was hard to kind of get my head around the actual flavour profile and what I should be going for when there was kind of quite a little pool to be tasting from. So I had a few English ales, traditional ones that I went for, and then the Irish ones that were here, and then the American. I kind of had to just look at recipes to get my head around what the American brown ales were going for, and I kind of, this was my first attempt. I put the recipe down on paper, and it kind of came out really well, and was really happy with it. So it's basically almost kind of like a hybrid between a stout and a red. And as you see it, it's very dark. It's nearly on the stout spectrum, but there's no roast barley in it at all. It's there's a Chateau Cafe Light, which is kind of it gives that kind of what do you say? It would kind of give it kind of burnt toffee and kind of coffee flavors to it, and then some chocolate malts as well. And it's mainly then it's all malt, and the hops are there just to kind of to balance out and to let the malt sing. They're just there to kind of provide a little bit of interest and depth to it as well. So I'm going to have to change it up pretty soon because we can't get Fuggles anymore, which is one of the hops that goes into it because it's too old school. Nobody's growing it. So so there's Willamette and Fuggles in it, which are two, like it's an American and an English kind of hop, which are just in the background. They're low alpha, and then the coffee and the Chateau Light, which will give it the nice malty aroma. And yeah, I really like it. I forget how nice it is all the time because I leave it and I take and the next time I brew it and then I go and taste it after we brewed it and go, wow, yeah, why don't I drink this all the time? And then it goes back into the fridge again or onto the shelves again. But yeah, it's I'm pretty happy with it. And as a brown ale, I think there's not enough of them going around because they're really nice beer.
You're dead right, Joe. Dead right.
You heard it here first, though. The global Fuggles shortage. Fuggles is the new Nelson.
Yeah. I don't think there's going to be people scrambling around trying to get Fuggles though. Like we're growing some ourselves. But it's not like a Galaxy.
Yeah. At what stage is Fuggles used in it? Is it primarily bittering or kind of?
It's aroma right at the end.
Oh, it is. Okay, right. Interesting. Fuggles are fuggled as a hop. So as you obviously know now, and we go on at every single one of these. There's you're right. There's not enough brown ales, Joe. The very first Crack Virtual Beer Fest down in. The second one, Bambrix was in, of course. And we're trying to get as many brown ales back as possible. Beautiful beer, super style. I don't know if you can see the comments coming in there as well. There's
something caveman about the melanoidins. They just tell you this is calorific. This is what your body needs to run for another day. And I love that. And Bambrix just delivers that sort of old-fashioned brown sugar treacle kick. I really like it.
Sustenance
yes. For the soul. That's it. Keep you going. When we're going looking for Fuggles.
Go foraging. So Peter was saying it's hard to describe how well this balances flavour with smooth drinkability. I never liked brown ale before, but this has converted me. So
I think that like it's kind of like everything when you go like. When I'll put my hands up as well. When Kate said to me, "Oh, you need to brew a brown ale," it's a really good style to brew, and we really go well with the can range. And I'm kind of like, all I could think of was Nuki, like Nuki Brown, and like I'm like, no, I can't do a bloody Nuki Brown ale. Like, no, go away. And like I lived in Yorkshire for years, and I had those kind of sweet, sickly kind of things, and yeah. But then I in fairness, once like St. Mel's Brown is lovely, and then once I kind of went reading about them and done a bit of research, I was like, yeah, I'll give this a bash, and they I think they're under I think they're just undervalued, really.
I think the St. Mel's one deserves a shout out as a trailblazing example of a style that was just unfashionable and nobody cared about, and suddenly there it was on the shelves in Super Value, and you can buy it, and it's.
I think that's kind of St. Mel's to a T. They don't they put it out there. If it's unfashionable, and that's what I really like about the boys. Like they're great crack. They brew good beer, and like it's just that. Even last week the IPAE, that's just hilarious. Like E for Egypt, because they forgot to spell check. So it's just things like that.
I'll say Liam forgot to spell check. I'll bail Owen out of that one. So good, so good. Yeah, and also we had what was it, the Joker cans as well, because Liam sent the wrong ones to the printer as well. Yeah, fantastic stuff. Like as you can see, brown ale love coming in. I have to say, so yeah, just to touch on last week, nearly every time I go onto Instagram, I think Kate has managed to win some sort of prize, and then last week you won the Clarstein, the keg dispenser. Joe, I saw you won something today or yesterday or something from Craft Candles.
That was my first ever thing that I ever won. Like, so that's
in my head coming on this evening, I was like, if the O'Driscolls have won the Blacks fucking prize, I swear to God.
Seriously, no, look, this is proof right here. Hang on, I had to.
Yeah, no,
not a winner.
Yeah, we know.
I have got another can though.
well, the one from this batch has been claimed anyway. It's been.
She won a $5 on the lotto tonight as well.
Oh, we did, yeah.
There's your things coming in three. So that's our three there, one now. So.
Question from Brendan there. I suppose to yourselves, yeah. What temperature do you drink Bambricks at? He'd usually have it off the shelf.
Yeah, I let it try to come to a bit. But the nice thing I like about sometimes if you kind, it's kind of like a sipper. But I generally like to drink my beers, particularly these ones, and a lot of the Clancy's at 8 degrees. But obviously I can't tell people to drink them at 8 degrees because there's another brewery somewhere that says enjoy their beers at 8 degrees. So I generally put on the cans between 7 and 10 degrees, and then they can or 7 and 9. You can 9, yeah. So if you look at a lot of the Clancy's cans, they say enjoy between 7 and 9 degrees, just to get around it. Yeah, but so enjoy between 7 and 9 degrees, and not 8 degrees as
8.5 degrees.
Yeah. Jameson temperature.
Yeah.
Without the ice.
Yeah. I think you touched on this earlier, Joe. I think you said that the Chateau Cafe was in there, but we had a question on the exact malts, or the actual malts that go into Bambricks. What's the malt base there?
Well, there's quite a lot of malts in it. There's our Ballykilcavan pale. Then there's amber. We have our own crystal 120, which is a really high crystal that we. It was one of the first malts that David got made as a specialty malt, and it was a real pain in my arse trying to make beer with that because it was so kind of sweet as well. It was a 120, so there's 120 in there, and then there's the Chateau Cafe Light, which is kind of like a 250 if you look at it in terms of the color. And then we just have a little bit. There's about 12% cafe Chateau Light and 12% coffee. I can't remember the rest of the percentages of the other ones. But so we've got pale malt, amber malt, which we toast ourselves, and then we have the Crystal, Chateau 120, and chocolate. And the only percentages I know are the 12 and 12 because of the chocolate and the amber. The rest I'll consult on my brew day and then, or the day before brew day, and then panic because I'm looking around trying to find the malts that I need. But yeah.
Why is it no brown malt?
Why is it no brown malt? I was trying to I was looking at brown, and then there was a throw up between the brown malt and the Chateau Cafe Light, and I had brewed with the Chateau Cafe Light. I just really loved that kind of bit of the coffee, and it reminded me. When I tasted the pilot, I was kind of going, I need to have some brown malt in there. But when I tasted the pilot, I had an idea. I was just like, this Chateau Cafe reminds me of sitting in France and having this kind of, when you have an espresso and then you breathe in and you can get that coffee back in the backyard. I got that, and I was like, oh, I have to keep that malt in. And then I was trying to make sure that I wasn't going to be overpowering, so I kind of balanced it with the chocolate just to kind of keep it in. But
no, it's just brown malt is one of my all-time favorite things, and it doesn't feel like it's lacking it. But it's not there. And I think that Cafe Chateau is doing a good job of substituting. Yeah, it's interesting.
It's pretty much now, anytime I do a dark beer, I try and find an excuse to put that in. It's like my favorite malt. Like Will Avery from Loughran's kind of done me a favor and got me quite a lot of it because he didn't have much. There was no call for it. So he done me a turn to get it in, and now it's taken over because I kind of use it in quite a lot of the beers as well. So it's probably more of a hangover from my home brewing days because when you do a kitchen sink brew and you find some beers and then all of a sudden you go, what's this one? And I'll throw it in. Oh wow, that's lovely. So it's always been in the back of my head to use it in the beer, and I got it in there.
It's brilliant to see that getting into commercial brewing, because obviously all of the best beers that are produced in Ireland are produced in people's kitchens. And when you have the opportunity to use those skills, those recipes, and get them out to a wider audience, I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, I think a lot of the at the moment now, there's quite a good mix of kind of established brewers that have that background that came from that, because I think one of the things that God love him, Nigel, when I started with him was, but he came from Diageo, before that Smittix, so it was driven into him not to divert and not to change anything. So if it came 2 days before brew day and we didn't have a malt that should have arrived in, maybe, or a hop that didn't arrive in, or there's a delay in delivery on something coming in, I would be like, grand. I'd be going, yeah, we can mix this and that would fix that, and then that would be the same profile as that. And because that's what you do when you're homebrewing, because you come to go make a brew on a Saturday afternoon or something, and you go to your malt cupboard and go, oh, feck it, I wanted to make a stout. I've no roast barley, fuck's sake, what'll I do? And you go off and you figure out what you're going to, and then you drink it and go, yes, that's lovely, that's even better than the stout I wanted. And I used to be like, yeah, sure, just change this, and this. And he'd just be like, going into his corner and rocking back and forth. So, I think that helped. I think he, as well, coming from that, saw that, you don't have to be so rigid in how you think, and you have to adapt as well. So, and there's quite a lot of us ex-homebrewers infiltrating into the professional side as well, which is great to see.
Yeah.
And you kind of give a nod every now and again. It's like I'm a Land Rover driver, and it's kind of like if you drive around the country and you meet another Land Rover, you give them the nod, and it's like the homebrew nod. Oh, he's a homebrewer. Well, how are you going?
Yeah, that is like, it's something that comes up often in these chats as well. And like the independent brewers of Ireland are the most innovative business people going, because they have to be to survive. And it's exactly that ethos, Joe, that kind of like that problem solving on the fly. How can I fix this quickly? I don't have what I need, but I can MacGyver something together to make it work. And it's fantastic to hear, fantastic to see. So yeah, I think it's brilliant. I really do. Just to jump to a few comments here, Richie from Hope is saying wonderful brown ale, great balance, not too sweet. Yeah, there's loads of love for the beer, obviously. Owen from St. Mel's, described as an American brown ale. Was there any particular American brand that you drew inspiration from?
No. The yeast was an American yeast, and that's basically the be all and end all. I just didn't want it to. I had that thing in that
association to Newcastle.
Yeah, I didn't want to have that kind of old English kind of style. You make an IPA, and it's an English style IPA. People won't buy it, but if it's a West Coast IPA, people will buy it. So that's the marketing thing coming in there as well. So
yeah, brown IPA. That's what you got to do.
Oh yeah.
That's it.
It's probably been done. It's definitely been done.
Oh, it's definitely been done. Yeah. There aren't any jokes on this in this territory at all anymore because it's been done.
This is it. I'm just 1 eye on the clock here. We're going to bring Paddy in from 12 Acres now very, very shortly. A final question from Justin asked, is an Imperial Bambrix a possibility?
Yeah, there's a couple of Bambrix coming down the line. There's going to be a barrel aged Bambrix with a bourbon barrel age, and then probably not Imperial, because what you find is it's not that simple. You can't just multiply the malt bill by 2 and then have an Imperial, because it won't be balanced anymore. It's a completely different beer when you're trying to scale up. So if I just doubled everything up on that malt bill and then done the exact same thing, the beer is going to be way out of whack. Because when I sat down to decide what I want to do with this beer, I was planning on it being more sessionable and not being Imperial. So it will be a different beer. But I'm going to do more than likely kind of something with nuts that will more than likely jump over onto the Clancy's can for the end of the year. I'm thinking more like a smoked, maybe like smoked almond or something like that, which I think will work nice with it. The only reason that is because I got some really nice smoked almonds from Hearts in Kildare one night and was eating them and had the beer as well. I was like, oh, that could be lovely. So that might pair well. But I might get some smoked brown malts and put them in, and that'll be your brown malts, and then feck a lot of almonds in somewhere in mid fermentation and see what happens. And that could be an interesting one to do. But Imperial, I'll leave it as it is, and I'll make an Imperial brown someday.
Fantastic. Excellent answer. Yeah, something that we're all longing to see. That sounds incredible. The barrel aged Bambrix and the kind of the smoked nutty ones coming down the line. Yeah, Joe, Kate, just want to say absolute pleasure as always. Great crack chatting. Absolute honor to have you on, and yeah, super beer. So thanks a mil. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, thanks guys, and thanks for your. I was actually chatting to Dave today, saying that your enthusiasm hasn't waned from 2019. So it's great to see, and yeah, thanks for all the support. And we'll see you at the next one.
Cheers, Brian.
Yeah, no worries at all. Thanks a mil, folks. We'll chat to you soon. Cheers. Hello, Paddy. Paddy, are you there?
How's it going?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Good, can't complain. I feel a bit like the guy, when years ago when we used to go out to pubs and stuff, I feel like, the way you used to go out and all your friends are out before you and you're late to the party and you're trying to catch up.
It's a dangerous game to play, Paddy. It's always been a dangerous game to play.
Have a pint.
Yeah.
Paddy, hello, welcome. Absolute pleasure to have you on as always. Good chatting. It's been ages. It's been what, about 2 or 3 weeks?
Yeah.
Since we were chatting.
Steve taking control of the mute button since the last day. Was that got a little bit out of control?
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. That was an experimental evening. Yeah. We're going back into teacher mode now at the moment.
Good.
Yeah, Paddy, absolute pleasure. Why don't you say, I suppose, hello, introduce yourself and tell us a bit about 12 Acres as well, please.
Well, cheers, Brian. Hi, everyone. 12 Acres Brewing Company. We're in County Leash as well. So we have a farm down in Killesh, about 20 minutes away from Ballykilcavan. Must be something in the water down here that we're using our own barley as well. We brew from our own malt and barley, and we use our own water as well. So it's a ground to glass kind of concept, and we also feed the spent grains to the sheep. So it's a full life cycle of the grain on the farm. Nice sustainable business model. So that's our thing. We were contract brewing for a couple of years first in 9 White Deer, and then we set up our own brewery on the farm in 2016, and we've brewing there since. Small operation, myself and a couple of part-timers, growing slowly. It kind of compare ourselves to like it's a bit like the hare and the tortoise. You know, we're the tortoise slowly getting along, and all the guys are flying past us, but that's okay. We don't mind. We're tipping away. We're doing all right. But so yeah, that's us. We brew our own malt and barley. We get it malted in minches, just our pale malt. The brother grows the barley on the farm, so that's his thing, and I brew with it. And it's a small family business. That's it.
Fantastic. It's just dawned on me, actually, we've had Banbricks before previous on one of the beer festivals. We had Winter is Coming was in the very first Crack Beer Festival, which was in the middle of summer, and here we are again with it in the middle of summer, when it feels more like winter.
Appropriate beer.
Yeah, absolutely, it's perfect for this evening. Tell us a bit about the beer, I suppose. What is it? What are people drinking at the moment?
It's I suppose by style, it's a robust porter. I don't know how that's different to a stout, because a stout is a stout porter. But anyway, it's a robust porter. It's 5.2%. Really, this one is all about the malt. Very complex malt bill. Really, when I was designing it, I wanted to brew. We hadn't done a porter or a stout, and I wanted to do a porter really. It was quite sessionable, but really full-bodied and smooth, and as close to nitro as it could get with a carbonated beer, I suppose. That was in my head anyway. So what I did was we used a lot of it was a pretty complex malt bill. We used our own pale malt, obviously, as the base. There's oatmeal in there, a few bags of oatmeal. Flake barley. We use Cara Hell, Cara Munich, and the dark malts aren't actually roasted. We use Carafate 2 and Carafate 3. So it's a dehusked grain, which kind of gives the roasted flavors without the kind of astringency, without the kind of sharpness and acidity you get from the husk. So that was it. That was kind of the thinking behind it. So we also, it's carbonated by spunding, so we don't add any carbonation. It's spunded. So I think it gives a finer bubble and smoother kind of mouthfeel, and that adds to the whole texture and the whole experience of the beer. And so yeah, that's it's lightly hopped. We use Northern Brewer and Willamette, which gives a nice little kind of blackcurranty background, but it's only there to balance the malt, really, the sweetness, and very light. 5.2, so yeah, it's nice and smooth.
I love the lacing. You get really good lacing down the glass in a very almost nitro-like way.
Yeah, that was it. It was there's a lot of protein in there as well, so lots of nice kind of brown head on it as well. It's
I think the American origin of the hop shows there's a certain, not quite citrus, but definitely bitterness. And I guess that's the Willamette's.
Yeah, absolutely. But
it works really well.
Yeah, cheers. Yeah, but that was it. It was only kind of lately. There's definitely a nice bitterness, but it's more definitely from the hops rather than the kind of astringency you get from roasted malt, roasted pepper chocolate malt. So yeah. It's also a little secret coming soon from Musgraves is a super value signature taste burger, oatmeal, 12 acres oatmeal porter burger.
Ooh.
Oh, okay. Savage.
Yeah, keep your eye out. It's going on shelves soon. I think it's going on for the summer for the barbecue season.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
that sounds.
Anyway, I haven't seen it yet, but I've seen the packaging, and so yeah, something different. Nice.
That sounds absolutely incredible. Yeah, incredible. I saw a comment earlier as well that there was some venison sausages being cooked in Bamberg's brown ale. So yeah, that's I think even cooking the burgers in some of the porter, that sounds fantastic. Peter was saying I saw Tully's put up a post about picking up kegs from you. It must feel great to be putting beer back in kegs again.
Definitely, yeah. Ed dropped out to pick up a keg for Tully's in Waterford. He got a keg of Fireside, which we were canning today. So he came and I took a keg off him, I took a keg off the batch just before we canned. So it's really fresh. So anyone in Waterford head down to Tully's, get a growler full of Fireside. It's literally out of the tank today. The hazy IPA. But yeah, it's great. A few kegs went out yesterday, and it's great to see the pubs and orders coming in again, and we're out cleaning lines and all that. Like, so it's brilliant. It's great. Looking forward to getting out ourselves, and I've booked Billy Burns and Kilkenny for the 12th for a few of us to get out. So yeah, I can't wait. Hopefully it'll be sunny by then.
And both Tully's and yourselves will be getting a note from George R.R. Martin's lawyers, I assume, at some point.
Yeah. It was completely coincidental. But yeah, you never know. Well, it could be worse things to happen,
Oh yeah, it's all about publicity. Yeah. You can't buy that sort of publicity.
That'd be terrible.
Yeah.
I wonder why O'Hara's didn't make more of the fact that they successfully won against Conor.
Yes, yeah, notorious. Yeah. The whole 12 acres concept was very daring. I remember at the beginning the idea that, well, we have 12 acres. I think we were the first ones to do all of our malt comes from our own fields.
Yeah.
Has that been difficult to stick to?
Yeah, there's been some challenges with it, definitely. Definitely, yeah. At the start, and still because we brew at such a small scale, we have to get 100 tons malted with minch. So that's quite a lot of barley. So obviously we can't take back that amount. So what to do is malt 100 tons because that's their batch size.
Yeah.
We take back what we need.
Yeah.
Which is usually 20 ton or that of base malt, and we have to store that in our own because they won't store it for us. So logistically, or like storage is a problem. We have to store it all in the brewery, and we're stuck. Space is an issue, and all that cash up front has to go out to buy it because people think it's great using your own barley. You must be saving a fortune, but actually no, it actually costs us more because the farm sells the barley to Minch. My brother runs the farm. He sells the barley to Minch, and then the brewery, 12 Acres Brewing Company, have to buy back off Minch.
Yeah.
Won't tell you the profit margin in between, but anyway, because it's so that's how it works, and we've all that cash outlay at the start of the year. Then whenever we buy it, and it's cash sitting there in the brewery. But so yeah, it has its challenges, but it's a nice USP, and
sure.
So,
malting ain't cheap. It's one of the things about the consolidation of brewing and malting in Ireland was that when every brewery was a maltster, had their own maltings, and when the big guys came in and they started shutting down the breweries, they left the maltings because those were specialized buildings, those were specialized people who knew how to malt. So you would find one brewery in a city would own 5 or 6 different maltings around the country because that was where they got the access to the raw ingredients, and because that wasn't something that you could just shut down and bring in house.
No,
it's such a specialized trade.
Hugely specialized and very energy intensive, and like drying hops, same, very energy intensive. So it's not something simple that can be done at any large scale, So it has its challenges, but we've stuck with it. And in fairness to Minch, they've continued to to do it for us, and I'm sure they're not getting a whole lot out of it, for like I know the contractor who drives, who has the contract to bring all the malt and barley to St. James's Gate, and he brings 250 tons a day, 7 days a week, 365 days of the year.
Yeah.
Think about it for a minute. 250 tons a day, 365 days a year. We buy 20 ton in a year.
Yeah.
So, so our 20 ton isn't going to make a break, but they still do it for us. So,
People don't realize what a coup it was when Irish microbrewing and homebrewing reached the stage where Irish maltsters invested in bagging, because they had never done that before. Malting was something you just put in a truck and sent to St. James's Gate, and that was it.
Yeah, exactly. Totally new concept with these little bags of malt. Who buys these? But so in fairness to them, and Alan Dempsey was there at the time, he got on board and he was behind it, and he pushed it, and they're still doing it for us, and now there are other options coming on board, like at Garrett Malls are doing it now, and there will be more options into the future. So that's great to see, and so like I said, it's our USP, and we're very proud of it. And my brother who grows the barley, it's a nice thing for him, because like David, like Joe was saying about David, you don't see what happens to malt when their barley, when it leaves the field. That's it goes somewhere and I don't know. So it's nice for him, and it's a nice story. And from when our great grandfather started growing it to be able to, it's a nice thing.
Is that something that you can export? Is that something people are interested in internationally?
Our malt,
just the 12 acres, 12 acre story.
Yeah, it is definitely something that you can. It's a nice the story is nice and people like it, family story and history and the sustainability factor, I suppose. Now, it's not important to everyone. Your average Joe drinking a pint at the bar doesn't really care where, but some people care, and I think it's getting more important. Definitely sustainability and traceability are becoming more and more important, and I think it will be more important. So it's a nice thing to be able to say to a buyer, say in a distributor in France or Russia or wherever, it's something they can sell. It's something different, and something sustainable. So definitely, it has its benefits.
Yeah, definitely. A couple of questions coming in, Paddy. One of them from Joey was asking, do you adjust your spring water for the different beer styles that you brew?
We do. Absolutely, yeah. We it's changed, but depending on the beer style, you have a balance of calciums and sulfates and all that. So yeah, it's that's something we do, and that's something every brewery does,
Peter's asking, what's your favorite beer to brew and why is it the rye IPA?
He's the man that's drinking it all.
He is. Super beer, to be fair.
Thanks very much. Actually, from a technical point of view, the rye IPA is probably my least favorite. Any brewer will know what rye does to a mash tun and hardship. It's so sticky. And it really slows down the mash, and it affects efficiency. So it's a bit of a pain. Anyone who brews will know, but it does give a lovely texture and a lovely kind of mild, spicy kind of. People say spicy, but I don't know if it is spicy. It's kind of a grainy. Yeah, it's a funny one, right? But it is nice. It does add a small bit. Adds gives it extra dimension to a beer, definitely. But sorry, the question was, what's my favorite beer to brew in the brew house? The easiest beer is obviously a lager. It just goes through the brew house really easy. It's quick and easy. Although it's difficult in the way that it's easy if you make a mistake, it'll stand out a mile. But in terms of it's got, it's a simple beer to brew, really.
Yeah, you don't make those mistakes though, Paddy. So it's easy to brew. Yeah. Brendan was asking earlier. I saw the comment a while back up. He's saying based on his local Lidl anyway, seeing the beers on the shelf, that the porter seems to be the one that's most often sold out. versus the other beers.
Yeah.
Would you find that to be the biggest seller, or would that be a bit of an anomaly?
Interesting. No, because it probably overall it's probably the slowest seller, but every little is different, and it depends who's in. The Fireside was definitely the biggest seller, the hazy IPA, without doubt. That was the quickest. So pallet check, definitely winter's coming. Wouldn't be, but yeah, it depends where you are, and it could be. Depends who's buying in that shop. It's a beer I like coming back to it every now and again. It's very easy drinking it's 5.2%, but it's very easy to drink. It doesn't feel it's easy to drink, and it's sessionable and smooth. So it's very drinkable.
It's a great session finisher because it has that lovely creamy, roasty,
very full body
thing going on. Yeah.
I was a bit worried about how we're going to get on after all the double IPAs.
No, cuts through all of that.
That's purposely popped it at the end. It's a fantastic beer. I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. I think it's gorgeous, and perfect way to round out proceedings. With that, I think we'll ask people, pop in their final comments. What do they think of the beers? We'll start to wrap it up. Looking at the clock, coming on 11:30 now. As we do that, I would just like to say, Paddy, first of all, obviously, absolute pleasure. Always a pleasure chatting. Absolute gent.
And listen, thanks a million for all the support, and organising these is brilliant. Because we've no festivals this year and last year, so it's great to be able to get out and thanks a million.
Yeah, no worries at all. No worries whatsoever. As I said, absolute pleasure. Folks, I'm thinking it's time to wrap up our formal event today. It kind of concludes our whistle stop tour of the country. So we've had 10 different beers. Started off in Longford, went to Dublin, then took a trip to Athlone or Westmeath, whatever you want to call it. Sligo, Wicklow, Tipperary, back to Dublin, Cork, and then a double leash at the end. It's absolutely fantastic. Just wanted to say huge thank you, first of all, to everyone for joining, everyone who picked up a beer box, bought a ticket for this evening. As we said at the start, your support cannot be overstated, and how much it means to all the independent brewers of Ireland, the ICBI, everyone involved. Elizabeth Vaughan in the ICBI have been doing all the stuff in the background there. I've been playing absolute blinders the whole build up to this and throughout the event too. John, absolute honor, great fun, privilege to have you on co-host this evening. Super stuff. Great to have you on. Clearly an absolute fountain of knowledge, pillar in the Irish beer community, and an absolute gentleman too. So thank you so much. We'll start to wrap it up. If you do want to join tomorrow evening and you don't have a beer box, tickets are still available through Beer Cloud. So feel free to grab one before it's too late. I think 6 o'clock is the cutoff, something like that. And at that, we're gonna open it up. Just a final thanks to everyone. Super night, super beers, really good, really enjoyed it. So thanks a million to everyone.
Thanks, Brian. Cheers.
Thanks so much, Brian.
Cheers, everyone.